Debate live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a Ko-Fi, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and X. Now we are joined by Refracted Curvature, Neil, and a whole bunch of people in the Flat Earth Debate Discord server, so welcome one and all.
How are you?
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
No.
Any evidence what the sun is?
No.
You're asking for a distance, and we don't even know what it is.
It would help if we knew what it was. I agree with that.
But what it is irrelevant to distance.
We have plenty
Okay.
of useful things that we can do with the sun, though, regardless of not knowing what it is. Aspects of where it is above we can definitely utilize.
Is it physical?
I have no idea. That doesn't have any bearing of where it's above at a given time, does it?
Well,
Or the
given
action or
that
attribute of
physical
what we get
is,
from it.
Hold on, I'd whoever it is in Discord first. Is it Chuckles?
I said, or the action or attribute we get from it. You know what I mean? The action or reaction we can record from it happening or what it does. Yeah, we can work with that. But we don't know exactly what the medium is, you know.
Go on, John.
yeah, what I was going to say is given that the term physical means something you experience with your five senses, can you see the sun?
Yes. And I had a debate with these guys because they were telling me that the horizon is not physical. And I said, I think we and John sorted this out, that it's physical, it's just not tangible.
Right. A rainbow's physical. It doesn't mean it's something tangible you can grab. Same concept.
Thank you. Next question, Sir Oakley.
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Are you serious?
Stuff popping to the center of other stuff. Stuff coalescing into a sphere. Honest, no.
Well, first we have to define which gravity you're talking about.
Which one does
You know,
not
you could
have an
show any.
apparent downward vector?
I didn't hear you.
He's talking about the pseudo reference, pseudo remaining force space concept conceived by Einstein, 1915. That's what he's talking about. There is no scientific proof now. It's a concept.
So you can't science a concept.
No.
But the thing is there any of the gravities that is not an apparent downward vector? I think there's one that isn't.
Specific. Which
Yes.
I hate.
Yes, Neil, specific gravity is not a exclusively downward vector.
Okay. How about any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Those are all pseudoscience as well.
You're going to like this new one. Any evidence that you can have pitch data on a globe?
Negative.
Yeah, pitch data will require a horizontal plane of reference. No, sphere they don't have that.
There are no horizontals on a globetard.
I feel, given that we had plenty of discussion about it, and then there was sort of no discussion after it regards to housekeeping question and pitch data, I'm quite happy with the question as it unfolded when we last discussed it. And the end result is you can't have pitch data on a globe. That was the conclusion we drew. So any evidence you can have pitch data on a globe? Brian joining. Maybe he objects. We'll find out. He's a good person to ask, given it's him, give it the most exposure. Hey, Brian.
Hey, Nathan. Hey, everyone.
Got a housekeeping question for you.
Okay.
Any evidence you can have pitch data on a globe?
No, because you don't have horizontal to have pitch data. Well, the reference for the pitch data doesn't exist.
If I was
Horizontal doesn't exist.
Wait a second. You can have horizontal if you look at it on like the picture you got on your screen right now. On the top of the globe, a straight line across. It'll be hanging
Where's
over
the
the
top of the
edges.
globe? Well, how is that going to work if you're at the equator then, Neil?
Oh, I didn't say it was going to work.
Well, the thing is, that line, that horizontal at the top, isn't with respect to that ball. You know, you don't move around that ball and all of a sudden level changes as you move it around the ball. That's just not how that works.
It's over. They are so done.
Yeah, the ball is with respect to that horizontal that doesn't exist on that ball.
It can't. Everything is bent.
But you have no
Dingleberry.
constant orientation.
Go on, Brian. You can't give us one statement and then just leave us hanging.
I know someone was talking there. I thought I overtalked someone. That's why I went quiet. No, you have no constant orientation. You see, that's the problem. In reality, we have a constant orientation of horizontal, whereas within the globe paradigm, there was no constant orientation. Nothing is constant because it can't be.
Well, they don't have an orientation at all. You know, there's no orientation on a globe. There is no up, down, left, right, forwards, back. They have in and out, but no one addresses
You have
it
an
that
arc
way.
to everything.
Exactly. They have nothing but in and out yet. Into the center or out from the surface.
They couldn't even differentiate the idea of a curve from a hill or a mud puddle, man. Literally, because they can't even find a curve with their fingertip or anything. Like even where it would start from a horizontal line to be a curve, and say, okay, start making your dots behind this horizontal. They can't even do that. This is the funniest shit. So funny.
They don't know what the horizontal is. That's how scary it gets.
Oh yeah, I don't really care about them not worrying about that because a horizontal's fine for horizontal for me, and all I need to know is something different than that. So like, if you have a problem with the horizontal line you make on the wall as that person, then that's their own personal problem. It's not really nothing to do with me. Yeah, it is weird.
If people are still looking at the horizon, seeing it horizontal and claiming curvature, when there is a zero slope at the horizon. Completely contradictory.
No matter which direction, even how they say one is supposed to be longer and then the other way from no, they're both the same. They give you the same format of reality of a horizontal line no matter where you look, every direction.
Yeah, you can't have a horizon on a globe.
That's 100% correct. that would be an obstruction on the globe, a curvature, a real edge of a curving surface that will hide or obstruct the objects in distance. That's an obstruction. That's not the
Yes.
natural limit of your vision, which is the horizon.
Well, we would call that, how would we formulate that? I
Curvature.
think there's
Like
another
they say,
column. There's the amount of-
Downward.
they say it correctly sometimes when they want, because when they talk about that boat that is being obstructed bottom up, sometimes they say that it is hidden by the curvature of the earth. That's the correct word. Saying some and the other time saying horizon, that's not correct. You don't have a horizon on a ball, on a
Yeah.
sphere.
Exactly.
That's correct.
So they need the secondary level people, the useful idiots, to say the horizon. It was always, when we were having this claim put to us, the horizon, the horizon, the horizon. Yeah, their claim is Earth curve. What is Earth curve? A point below the surface level, derived from calculating a point you'll call the horizon in the maths, that's only in existence because you've derived it from an eye level that's parallel with surface level.
And the horizon.
The geometrical horizon only exists in the maths, the
sky.
rumpus.
Go on, John. Yes, George.
Yeah, the horizon is defined as where surface level appears to meet the sky. So you can only describe the horizon with respect to a flat plane.
The horizon has rate of slope 0, as all horizontals are parallel to it. It's where we reference for horizontal, which means it can't be curvature of a globe out, because that would be a change in the rate of slope over distance.
Someone would always be dropping, right?
Add to what you just said that we know that the horizon and the line from your eye to the horizon, that line is level. And just to prove it, we know it already. And when we don't have visibility to that horizon when we are doing navigation, we can use a bubble sextant that will create that same level line from your eyes to that horizon, because we know no matter what the altitude where you are, that horizon will be level from your eye to that line in distance. And we replace that normal sextant with the bubble sextant because we know it. We know that it is a level line.
No, it would be a dipping from level to the horizon because you're above the surface. So you'll always have a dip correction to level.
Exactly. You only have level left to right, not from you to it.
Yeah, basically there's no curve anywhere.
Well, it would be more the artificial horizon if you're on land. Sorry, the artificial horizon. If you're on land, you use. You won't have any dip at that. In the bubble section, you'll have no dip. It's only from a boat. But the point being is that the horizon has rate of slope 0. It has to be a horizontal. That's where we get horizontal from. So, that's why all horizontals are parallel to each other, and all horizontals are parallel with the plane of the horizon. That's it. They want to turn level into an equal distance from the center of the globe, but they want to also have horizontal that's separate from that level. If you look at some of the surveying books, that's what they try and claim. So level and horizontal are not the same thing. Yet, when they are measuring a drop from their position, it's a measured drop from level, because level has to be horizontal when they're doing that. Yet, level is supposed to be a curved line. This disappearing in all directions from underneath their position. It's contradictory BS.
Yeah, I was just going to say, well, you can't do that. That's a contradiction.
Yeah, because when they are setting up the other light, yeah, they use the level to level up the tool. And that's level according to them, but not sea level. That's not level, that's curve.
Yeah,
That's a
at that
contradiction
point
right there.
exactly. Well, at that point, when they're setting up the outer level or the theodolite in surveying, or the total station, all of them must be level. But at that point, they're trying to claim that that level is a tangent. But a tangent is still a straight line, which means at that instance within your paradigm, you're claiming that that level is horizontal, even though horizontal can't exist within your paradigm. You're claiming that the tangent is level and the tangent is horizontal. That's what they're claiming at that point. But then level must be equal distance from the center of the globe when they need to make that claim mathematically as well, because they're actually a train wreck is what they are. A geometric train wreck is all you could really call our opposition.
Yeah, and the globe that they mentioned that they've got no measurements for, when they do try and explain the measurements, they end up telling you how flat it's measured.
Or using loads of flat Earth terminologies.
Well, would those be? It would be nice if someone had a list.
Oh, wouldn't it
of
be
all those
handy? Yeah.
terms.
Yeah, it would be nice if someone had a list of all those words that they use and could read it out now.
Shame nobody has, otherwise we'd be hearing it, I guess, but we're not hearing it, so the list probably doesn't exist.
I think I might have one.
Oh, really?
It's
Hint,
the
hint.
yeah, it's called the 30 words not allowed to be used when explaining how Earth curve is measured. Sea level, horizon, horizontal, parallel, plumb, perpendicular, elevation, angles, triangles, sea sextant, theodolite, spirit level, altitude, vertical, tangent, straight line, up, down, plane, north, south, east, west, azimuth, altitude, and flat. 30 words, and that's that. You can't use these unless you're explaining flat.
Yeah, but they use them all the time on the regular.
Because they're explaining how flat it is and don't even realize it.
Oh dear.
Yeah, they're telling us how flat it is all the time.
Yes, they are. It's good to know. Yeah, One Deck rightly stops people when they're using these terms. It says you can't use that. You need a flat Earth for that. Has been abbreviated to no.
Oh, it's instead of you need a flat Earth for that, you just tell them no, you can't use that word.
Just no. Yeah, you can't use that word. If they say I can, well, justify your use of the word horizon.
When
There
they
isn't one on the globe.
created that idea of the globe, they found that those words are already there and already used by people, all people in the world. So those words are not just used by English speakers. It's just they have translation in every language. So when they created that idea of the word, they found them and they couldn't get rid of them. So they had just to change the meaning of those words.
They couldn't call it a curvaison because it's not a straight line. They can't.
Yeah, it's called the plane of the horizon. We need to mention the plane rather than just the horizon.
Well, they're kind of in a
Whatever
sticky
you-
wicket as far as those words are concerned because they can't change the meaning of them, else you won't be able to relate them to reality. So you gotta keep the meaning, but deny certain aspects.
They're also allergic to physics, actual physics, and demonstrations. Most all globers I've ever met, there might be 1% that tries something, but yeah, they're all allergic, literally.
Yeah, and when you ask them what tool or equipment they use to measure curvature, they start naming elevation angle measuring tools. How bizarre.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of them they can't use. As time progresses, we'll find that almost everything is incapable of use in practical application by a globe believer. Because in practical application, Earth is flat.
Even a 3D ball isn't usable to demonstrate a globe. Isn't that the funniest thing? That's the funniest thing to me.
What?
Well, I think he might be referring to how they say that the horizon's refracted because of the Black Swan, and you can no longer hold up a ball to describe the Earth because you don't have that geometric obstruction.
Oh, you're saying in physical reality, because of their claim of 7/6 of a radius value in mathematics that derives the sphere edge horizon from parallel eye level and surface level, that reification can't exist merely because they say we can't see our own hand in front of our face? True, but the least of their concerns.
But it is yet one of their concerns. It is least, but it is a concern.
I would be more concerned with the use of surface level and parallel eye level as they're on the list.
Yeah, I was talking with one of my coworkers about that, and I had him, so that he wouldn't accuse me of cherry picking or something. I had him pick which Earth curve calculator he wanted to use, and he could not find one that didn't have surface level as a horizontal plane. Can you believe that?
Oh dear.
It's not that I can't believe it. I understand how surface level is used to create the Earth curve math, so it's a necessity. Flat Earth is required to infer a point below surface level derived from your elevation above it, parallel with it, eye level, and surface level are required. Earth is flat to assert Earth curvature.
Yeah, but when a regular guy, when it clicks, do they immediately resist? What happened, John?
He didn't want to talk to me anymore, which I understood.
Yeah, you completely destroyed his religious belief.
He did come back and talk to me later, but like he never wanted to talk about that topic ever again.
He will.
Yeah, because once you bring that to their attention, there is no more globe. So I guess they're homeless.
But they do start saying it's locally flat at some point, which I find very. I can't think of the word that I find it, but it's very strange, isn't it, that they've come into this point now where they have to admit it's locally flat, realizing there's no curvature. So yeah, we do have to use it flat to take any measurements. So the penny's dropping.
Well, it is part of their rhetoric. They don't deny that they measure Earth flat. It's all over their books. They just make fun of people who accept the measurement.
What happens if everyone will measure at the same time? Everyone measures flat locally. Is it
Anybody
still a globe?
Everybody
Oh
is.
dear.
Locally flat.
Well,
Hey,
if they
Nathan Oakley, hands
they
across
utili-
America.
they're utilizing those measurements. Anybody who's navigating currently with a map.
He said Nathan Oakley, welcome to America.
Well, if you have a segment of a line, that's still a straight line, right? How does extending that line change anything about the initial segment?
It doesn't.
Not at all.
You know, it's not like they got a special pleading fallacy. That's
Yep.
what they got. Right off the
Special
jump.
pleading fallacy that apologizes for why it's not being measured globe shaped.
Every single time. Why they can't find the curve, they don't know where it's at. Everything gets in the way. It's funny. It's the funniest shit.
It is until you realise the awful truth of the implications of that statement. They're not measuring it globe-shaped, and they're using fallacy to explain why they're not measuring it globe-shaped. So how are they measuring it?
Flat.
Right. So Earth's being measured flat. That's the end, isn't it? I'm not interested in the special pleading fallacy for why it doesn't need to be measured anything other than what it is measured, which is flat. You know, you can listen all day to them saying it's because it's so big. Yeah, special pleading as an apology for measuring it flat. So who cares about their apologetics?
Yeah, basically, their argument starts after the conclusion of our understanding. Then they want to deny what they know to argue that it is could be a ball. It's an argument for ignorance.
Yeah, the mountain's so big we can't measure it. Not at all.
You can test that every day just by doing a simple thing. Whenever you go, wherever you go, take with you a gyroscope. You will never ever witness, no matter what is the distance where you go, you will never witness that gyroscope tilting away from you, just keeping its horizontal, and you will just follow that curvature dipping away from that horizontal. No, it will never ever happen. That horizontal and you and the floor underneath your feet will always be parallel. It will just go in a straight line. That gyroscope will never tilt. In a plane, in a train, in a car, just walking by using your feet, that gyroscope will never tilt away from that line, horizontal line. And that means that the floor that you are going on its surface, it's just level. Because you use that gyroscope, because we know that gyroscope maintains its direction in space. So we use it to just establish level for theodolites and some equipments. And we use it to just also determine the horizontal line where the plane is going. That to just notice if the plane is pitching its nose up or down, or if it is following a curved line or level line. So that level line will never tilt away from you, wherever you go.
That's what the pitch data says.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey
What
guys,
latitude
I
measurements
just got a
take.
call from. I just got a call. I got to step out for a minute. I'll be right back.
What was that one deck?
Saying, yeah, and that's what latitude measurements say also, Neil. Anything you look at is telling you all roads lead to a flat Earth. All roads.
Yeah.
It's fantastic at this point, though, isn't it? You know, it's over, like you say. It's all sewn up, and we've got it down to the simple measurements, and now we've got the pitch data, latitude, elevation angles, celestial navigation.
Yeah, but doesn't it bother you a little bit that for all those years they were using words like the horizon and we weren't catching them? What the heck, man? Were we in a fog or something? Sea level, plane, horizontal.
Yeah, it did
Oh, we
feel.
were.
I
It's
was just
just a
about to
case
agree
of
as
not
well, Brian.
everybody was joining in on the argument.
We were allowing it to happen. We didn't know any better. So when we were arguing in the curve calculator, we didn't know any better. So when they said sea level, we didn't know that meant 5, 6, 7 years later we'd be saying, that's on the list, I'm afraid. Can't use that to prove a curve. We need a flat Earth for that.
Yeah, but Brian says we were in a daze. Explain, Brian.
It's like this. That was pointed out many times that sea level is level and it can't be a curve. But nobody wanted to latch onto it. People only decided to latch onto that in recent times. It's not that nobody ever said it or pointed it out. It's that they were wasting their breath because nobody latched onto it. Everyone wanted to talk about NASA and all this other rubbish and the curve calculator and everything else without looking at what was really going on. So it's not that it wasn't said or nobody noticed it. It's a case of that nobody, en masse, people latch onto it. So if you don't have the support of those around you, your argument won't go very far.
And you were saying this, correct, Brian? You were keen on this, weren't you?
Yeah, but I wasn't the only person. I've heard other people say it over the years, but it's just that it wasn't latched onto. It was so simple and straightforward and easy, people weren't latching onto it.
Seems too good to be true, that's why. How could they possibly just use our terminology? How could they have done it? How did they get away with it? Because it was right under our nose. Head, whoever that is.
I was going to say, I think it was the fallacious logic. It's hard to keep up with. They're so rapid fire with it. The fallacies come hard, loose, and fast.
Yep.
At the moment, I'm having an issue with them with the word weight, their understanding of weight. I made a video, not my first video, but a video I made recently about the whole upward rising Earth thing. And who's left arguing with me are the ballers. They can't understand how you can't be falling unless you have weight. If you had weight, if you're falling, it means you have weight. Because if you didn't have weight, you wouldn't be falling. They can't understand that basic concept. They just can't get it. And they can't understand the concept of if you don't have any inertia because you don't have any weight, if you have no weight, you have no inertia. So you have no resistance to acceleration. So if you were standing, if the Earth was rising up, it would just blow you straight up in the air because you have no resistance to that, to the acceleration. But they can't understand that. The ballers are left arguing with me. I have several ballers arguing with me past few days. All the people who are promoting the upward rising Earth, they're not even there anymore. In the comments, it's the ballers. You can't understand that if you're falling, it means you have weight. Something has to have weight before. Otherwise, it wouldn't be falling. That's the whole point of it. Like the downward vector. They can't get it. They literally, I mean, not just one. I'm talking, I don't know how many of them can't get that. They can't understand that basic concept.
But what is weight?
The downward vector.
Well, you need two things for falling. You need two things for fall: weight and a flat plane.
Yeah, you need down. Maybe that's the problem.
Exactly.
I watched a
Up and down
Vsauce.
is in respect to a horizontal plane.
Watched a Vsauce video today about on a globe you can't know what up is. And while I was covering it, I was thinking, yeah, we're saying the same thing. You know, you can't have directionality that's obviously with respect to a plane of reference on a globe. Now he's just saying, oh well, it just means you can turn the map upside down. You're like, well, no, the map is created with respect to a plane of reference, so you can't have that. Yeah.
Yep. It's always been flat. It's always been measured like that.
I was going to say, it's one of the words on the list, isn't it? Up.
Yep. Ups on there. Up, down.
Yeah,
North,
they
south,
just
east,
can't have
west.
it. Yeah,
Wait a second. Can you repeat that, Nathan, with the map? What did you say?
I said I watched a Vsauce video where he's saying, you can draw the map upside down and just change the font so that the font's upside down, and that could be your reference for the world. And he's saying on a globe, you know, you don't know which way up is. I'm like, yeah, but up on a map is Cartesian, and that's how it's created. It's a flat system.
Yes, up is the Z, zenith.
Yeah, exactly. So it
Up
doesn't.
and down are the zenith and the neither.
Well,
Oh, well, if you know what I mean, you can call it the zenith as well, down. But it's all with respect to sea level, which is an XY horizontal plane within those coordinates.
yeah. So they're making apologies for saying, or seemingly covering up the fact that they can't have up.
Is that a recent video, Nathan?
Yeah, it's a Vsauce short I watched. I can only
Yeah.
assume his videos tend to be very recent when they're presented to me as I flick through the shorts, because I'm not looking for anything specific.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me if there's someone like him addressing it, because I mean, what we say here, he doesn't directly address us, but eventually that nonsense gets to him.
Son of a bitch.
And people like him. Do you know what I mean? You know, Veritasium and that.
Oh, my graphics card keeps crashing.
Yeah, it's the pebble effect. You drop a pebble in the lake and it ripples. You know, we cause ripples here that affect big anti-flat earthers within this community who are the most vocal and paid attention to by the algorithm. So in a way, we are affecting the rhetoric.
Oh, we absolutely are. Absolutely. Even a couple of years ago there, Neil deGrasse Tyson was addressing something that I said concerning Einstein. So that somehow made its way to him. Because at the top graphs, they have to start doing damage control at the upper top brass prior to the public catching on about why he's saying this. Do you know what I mean? Why is Neil deGrasse Tyson saying that? Why is Vsauce saying that? Why is he making this video? You know, it won't become clear straight away. They're trying to get ahead of the problem.
Well, according with Neil deGrasse Tyson, they lied to us on the Baumgarten Red Bull jump by presenting it as a fisheye lens. At that height, that stuff is flat. They've lied to you. He's admitting it.
Yeah. All part of the magic trick. Really let you know that it's got to be flat, whilst telling you it's obviously curved, and you're a stupid idiot if you don't realise that.
Yeah, what he's actually saying to you there is that you'll never see the curve. It's always flat. That's what he's telling you. You can't see the curve from 121,000 feet, or whatever the hell it was, or 21 miles, whatever it was, Baumgarten was claimed to jump from. You can't see the curve from this height. Yeah, because it just doesn't exist.
Well,
you can't see something that's not, if it's not in existence in 3D reality, you can't see it. It's that simple. And our curve, our globe is not.
Right. Well, to even
above sea
describe
level.
height, you need a horizontal plane of reference. You know, that you've got to have a horizontal plane of reference to describe height. So when he says that 21,000 feet above surface level, you're not going to see the curvature of Earth. Yeah, duh. You know, there's no curvature. We're talking about height.
They've been talking about altitude, and they can't use altitude because you're going to need like a level reference frame of sea level horizontal. Yeah, you can't use that when explaining curvature.
You can't use the term feet either. You can't use the term inch, feet, or mile either. They're all straight lines.
Yeah, as per the scale on the map. When you're laying out a map, right, and you want to get the scale off the side of it and compare how long something is going to be in terms of distance, because you get your calipers or whatever you're using to match the scale to where you're going to be journeying. That's got to be a linear distance. It is a linear distance. It's on a flat map. But miles only work in that way. Kilometers are the same. We're talking about distance. I'm not talking about curved distance. It's not curved linear. It's not, it's It's just straight and flat like it is on the maps. That's how it works.
Maybe instead of saying with, height is with respect to a horizontal plane, we could just say height is not with respect to a curve.
Yeah. Height is with respect to a horizontal plane, though.
It's sea level, yeah.
Yeah. When you're talking about altitude, when you're saying how high something is, you have to have something to reference it to. Yeah? You can't give
Can't
a
be a
height
rainbow.
in free space, can you?
Yeah,
Height
once
above
they
what?
say the elevation, that word elevation, height, it destroys them. They're done once they say those words.
Yeah, as soon as you use the word elevation, referencing anything to do practically with Earth, then it has to be with respect to sea level. That's what elevation is. Height off the deck. Not height off a ever-increasing surface that's opening up ahead of you, a void. No. That's not how your height's given.
Yeah, I had one guy say, yes, you can. You can take a height off 1 point. You can have 1 point on a ball, and you can measure an elevation to it.
Because we have sea point, yeah?
Exactly.
Dot to dot.
Yeah, well, you can't really have sea point because, level is no point higher or lower than the other, so it can't be that.
Exactly. How do you establish what sea level is then? Because how do you establish what sea level is if sea level for Nathan is at a drop from where I am?
I guess
If you know
that's
what I
why
mean.
they steal
Like,
all. I guess that's why they steal all of One Deck's words.
Yeah, they need to utilize flat plane descriptions and measurements to assert they're on a ball.
It's great, isn't it?
What about a dip between two observers? Then it becomes mountains.
With respect to a plane also. Right, the mountains, the valley, all of it's with respect to the plane. Okay. Anything else on this? Because we've got video we can cover. I can leave my game running in the background so it can stress my GPU. Hopefully, I'm just determined to get it to stop doing what it's doing.
Yeah, we're ready.
Okay, so we're going to be covering this today. Let's bring it up. This is Kim Iversen. As always,
yeah,
please
she's a big, pretty big YouTuber.
Never heard of her. I'm sure you have, which is jolly good. And I'm sure you, the audience, will be appreciative that we like to share the love here on Flat Earth Debate. So there's a link to this person's video. Please let them know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me with a polite comment that won't automatically get wiped out by YouTube's algorithm or the videographer themselves. So just let them know. And I'm going to spell this out in the most basic of manner because some people will do this and it's not necessarily as effective unless you do it the way I want you to, which is literally the @ symbol and then all one word, Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. And then whatever you want to put that isn't you're an idiot, you think the world's a sphere, or wouldn't you like to know about my great and wonderful philosophy of flat earth? Just point out the fact that we've covered their video and they might be interested in hearing what we've got to say about that. So, yeah, please let the videographer know. And it's, as I say, Kim Iversen. And I'm going to get Brian, as he was the one that interrupted this call to action, to do a little preamble on who she is and why she's popular. But like anybody, regardless of their size, everyone loves getting a few extra comments, a few extra video views. She's a videographer, right? She's on YouTube, so she'll appreciate your comment. And hopefully, if she were to respond, she'd do the same for me. That is to say, put a link to my video in her response video. That is the selfish motivation from my point of view. Hopefully she would put a link to my video if she was to do a response, and anybody else for that matter. But I think I've done enough of it's disappeared off the screen. I've probably done it longer than I needed to. There's a lot of people chatting. How many people are in the live audience? Is there more than normal? 107, about the same as normal. Okay, anyway, I'll put another link. Please let her know at Nathan Oakley 1980. Send me. Brian, do you want to give us a little bit of a preamble? You said you were aware who she was.
I know that she covers a lot of different. She'll cover political stuff and different things online. She's a little bit like Candace Owens, a little bit in that way, but she's pretty big YouTuber, well known. I wouldn't. Earlier on, when you said never heard of her, never heard of her like that, never heard of her.
I haven't.
Never heard of her. Right? Yeah, but there's a way of saying these things. You should say if you want to be in her favour.
Oh, I am unfamiliar with this particular videographer.
I don't know who this lady is. You know what I mean? I don't know who this lady is. I mean, that's all you have. I haven't seen her video.
This is the first time I'm laying eyes on this person.
Yeah, because what you're saying is, yeah, I never heard of her. Anyway, support me in the algorithm, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? You're going from never heard of her, as in with a kind of a scowl, to support me in the algorithm and blah, 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 blah. You're switching it up. You're being two different people.
Okay, well,
I'll give
a disclaimer. Actually, I'm in a load of pain. I've just had my teeth drilled by a dentist. So if I sound despondent, it's got nothing to do with me saying, I've never heard of her. I couldn't give a toss if she was run over to... No. I just got a lot of pain in my mouth, that's all.
I know, but she doesn't know that. Now she does.
Now she does. I'm sure she's so delighted to hear it too. Anyway, any other things we should know about her? She's a bit like Candace Owens. Popular, covers lots of different subjects. Anything else?
No, I don't know what else.
You don't have to be like that. Very negative. Should be like thinking that you don't have anything else to say about her, Brian. I mean, there's ways of saying these things. If you've got nothing else to add, just say, I'm sure she's a delightful lady. I just don't know a great deal about her. There's ways of phrasing this stuff.
I'm going to have to call a referee for you, Stu.
And we're only mucking about. Bloody hell. People don't understand. I know he's not a Brit, and we'll let Brian off for that. But we do have a way of bantering between us, and we're going to take the piss. Or try and get... When Brian shows his hand that something irritates him, I get out my little Brian notebook and go, that irritates Brian greatly. Remember to use it excessively next time you talk to him. Anyway, let's get into it if there's nothing else. I should open the Discord server, especially as I don't want to be talking. And the amount I've done already is hurting. Anybody else know this delightful, I'm sure very popular, and there's plenty of nice things to say about it. We just don't know a great deal about it, which is terribly unfortunate. But do you in the Discord server?
Hit play.
Hold on, Neil. The Discord server. You aware of her?
Yeah, man, I watched this one video on Sunday night, and all I can say is she seems like a very smart lady. She's questioning the globe narrative, but she's at the beginning stage. Actually, they're both smart, and they're both doing the same thing. They're just not aware of the factual information that we have here, and that's what this video is gonna show them.
She's schizophrenic or something.
What?
Said both of them. Is she schizophrenic? Is it her and her alter ego that she talks? What are you talking about?
I didn't say schizophrenic, bro. What are you talking
about?
No,
you said both of them. I only see one person.
Oh, okay. You'll see another guy. He's there with her.
Another guy? Is she transgender?
Oh, come on.
Her and a gentleman.
Her and a gentleman. Jolly good. Okay.
She brings as a guest, and yeah, they're both questioning the globe narrative, but they're both at the beginning stages. So they're asking these beginning stages questions. And I think this is going to be a great video to cover, man. And honestly, when you see the comments in the Globe section from the Globe believers, you can make another 10 videos just breaking down their comments and their logical fallacy, but we don't have to get into that.
That's okay. Mighty Mush's way of saying take it easy on him.
No. You can do what you want to do, man, but I'm just saying she seems like a very smart lady, and she's definitely honest and questioning the globe narrative. Let's just provide the proper information. That's all. I don't care what you say, or I can only speak for myself.
Okay, anybody else? If not, we'll get into it.
I want to talk about the cosmos, the end to the upside down cosmos, and get into. I am just going to put it out there. I am not convinced we landed on the moon. I'm not.
Not convinced. Okay. Well, if you're unconvinced, paraphrase, know this. The area above your head that they've had to travel through to get to the moon is claimed to be a 10 to the minus 17 torr vacuum. If it was the case that the sky was a vacuum, then the gas you are currently breathing would have already dissipated into that area of volume, the space, because that's what gas does. Dissipates into volumes. That's all it does. That's not all it does, but in this instance, that's all it does. So we'd have never developed gas pressure to breathe if the sky was a vacuum. The very first gas particle would have come out of the ground and been presented with a 10 to the minus 17 torr vacuum, and it would have sodded off into the sky vacuum to never return. And so with the second and the third, and we'd have never developed pressure. It hasn't got anything to press on if the sky is a vacuum. It isn't. Now that automatically debunks all claimed journeys through the sky vacuum, including but not limited to the trip to the moon, trips to Mars, Voyager, you name it. Anything that's claimed to take place in a vacuum is debunked by the second law of thermodynamics. It is that simple. They definitely did not go to the moon. Furthermore, it is one of the few categories that we can accurately ascribe liars their title of liar. If you claim to have been in a sky vacuum, you are a liar. It is that simple. Now, the rest of the tens of thousands of people who work in NASA, we cannot ascribe that label to, because I'm sure they're hard-working, honest people. But the people who claim to have been in a vacuum are definitely liars. There is no vacuum to be in. The sky is not a vacuum. If the sky was a vacuum, then the gas we breathe would fill the space. Anything?
I have to make a correction.
Feel free.
Nathan, it's not vacuum, it's heliocentric outer space sky vacuum. Because there is a low-grade vacuum that is there up high in the sky. Right? The air pressure does decrease as you rise. Right? But that is created by the sun, and it can only be created within a container. Same as the gas pressure and the temperature. These vacuum gas pressure and temperature can only be created within a container. What they're claiming is all three without a container and a monstrous vacuum where all our air is not expanding out, diffusing out into. That is the problem, not the vacuum, because there is a low-grade vacuum.
I agree. So
can you say outer space?
That's controlled by the sun.
go on, Neil. I'm waiting for you.
I said, is it safe to say outer space is fake?
Heliocentric outer space is fake. That doesn't exist.
Heliocentric outer
There's
space.
two parts
Yeah.
to what Brian's telling me. Number one, the terminology has to be put into their paradigm to make it clear that we're taking apart their paradigm and their bullshit. So heliocentric sky vacuum, fine. The other point he's making is a bit more pertinent, which is to say that the word vacuum in this instance, high vacuum, low vacuum, torr, these are all descriptions that we arbitrarily ascribed on a scale to what we experience with the pressure of the gas, which wouldn't exist in the heliocentric paradigm. So Brian's saying, I can, and it is, correct and accurate to describe sea level as meeting a vacuum. Now, if I say sea level, all right, and directly above it, 1 nanometer above the sea level is a vacuum, and then describe how much pressure there is in that vacuum. That is how NASA term this pressure gradient. The vacuum is described to start at sea level and then gradiate. But in their paradigm, the gradation doesn't stop. It just turns into a 10 to the minus 17 torr vacuum, and the gas at the Kármán line is where they'll calculate it.
Yeah, but low, medium, high, and very high and extreme, all these are levels of vacuum that are known about and used within industry, right? Let's just say within industry, right, where they have to use vacuum, right? These are known about. So they don't claim, NASA can claim that sea level is the start of a vacuum. NASA can claim that, but in reality, when we refer to vacuum, it starts with a low-grade vacuum, and it moves up to an extreme vacuum, which would be 10 to the minus 6 torr, something like that, 10 to the minus 7, whatever. I think 10 to the minus 6 is the lowest they can go. So when I speak about the vacuum high up in the sky, and I call it a low-grade vacuum, it's a low-grade vacuum because it's about 10 to the minus 2 torr, maybe 10 to the minus 3 torr. But we've never been able to measure anything really above that point. The point being is, it's how the vacuum is there, right? And what can and it cannot happen concerning it, right? That's the vacuum. Because someone could show her, look, here's a high-altitude balloon, and here's the data from a high-altitude balloon. Here's the air pressure, which is a vacuum at whatever height up in the sky. Yeah, that is true. That is there. But it's how it's there and what maintains it is important. Whereas within their paradigm, they're claiming from sea level, this is what NASA claim, the vacuum starts, right? And it doesn't stop until it gets to 10 to the minus 17 torr outer space sky vacuum. So that's the difference. They have no, just 1 second. They have no mechanism to have a vacuum, or gas pressure, or temperature. Yet they're claiming all three, right? They're claiming all three, yet they have no mechanism for them. One deck.
Just saying, as far as I'm concerned, with what I do, the vacuum starts, after 0 psi. We'd say, I've got a vac pump and I vac systems out, and I'll see the gauge pressure drop from whatever pressure it is. It'll go down, 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 get to 0 psi gauge pressure, and then for anything below that, then the vacuum pressure will start to register. So, I mean, at sea level, you're at 14.7 psi. That's not a vacuum, is it?
No, but like Nathan is correct in one way, and is that they define a vacuum with how much air pressure there is, right? That is true. But the point being is that it's clearly defined when vacuum starts. In industry, they clearly define the pressure at which a vacuum starts. Someone's off mute there, and they're continually off mute. So go on mute.
It's one deck.
Shit, sorry.
Yeah. So it's clearly defined within industry when the vacuum starts. So you might say 0 or past 0, but when it's described as an actual vacuum, right? When they describe it as an actual vacuum, might be below 0 one deck, because it could be 10 to the minus 1 torr or something like that, which would be way lower than just 0 psi.
Okay, let's move on.
0,
anyway,
definitely.
Yeah, the space is fake, where they claim to take this journey to the moon, where she's questioning the moon landing. Let's move on.
Convinced. So I get called a moon landing denier by anybody who, I don't ever say that out loud much because people attack. It's the one subject that people will really come after you over. But they put all of and this is, I don't want to talk about the moon landing necessarily because there's so much to talk about with the universe, but
universe. I don't know. When you talk about the universe, there's the stars and there's the land. That's about it. Now, there's this idea that there's this ever-ending, or never-ending, ever-expanding, scaled by Huygens heliocentric version of a universe. And that only exists because of measuring the stars with respect to their ground positions. Taking those angle measurements and extrapolating them out into a otherworldly, out-of-the-box paradigm we call heliocentrism. But these ideas are designed by mathematicians. So this concept that we have in the 21st century of being in a vast space that you can travel through, again, debunked by second law of thermodynamics, has only come into existence for us to conceptualize because of the mathematicians of 300 to 500 years ago.
This is just a showcasing of what they try to tell us when it comes to the universe, right? Where they fed us this story, and then it's, they're like, yeah, we landed, we put people on the moon. Oh, but we just so happened to never go back, really, right after these 3 years during the space race. We just so...
Yeah, I mean, we can help this lady in regards to the concerns you're led to have after you come to the subject if you're doing a cursory amount of research. I'm not saying she's done cursory research, but I'm just saying the first things that you're presented with lead you down a garden path that you don't need to be wandering down if you know that the sky vacuum itself in a heliocentric world that you currently may or may not believe in cannot be real because it violates natural law. At that point, you stop concerning yourself with whether or not they went back. You know that the area that they'd traversed to get to it isn't real. Now, that debunks all space claims. All of them.
So happened to lose the tapes. That to me is like the biggest red flag. Oh, you don't have the tapes anymore. So you have no data, no telemetry data. It's all gone.
If they had the telemetry data, it would be flat. It would all be with respect to a horizontal plane of reference. That's what telemetry data is. They can't have ball telemetry data.
You don't have the original video. You don't have any of this. They also say, oh, and then there was that scandal where the astronauts, the Apollo 11 astronauts went and gave moon rocks, as like token gifts, and they gave it to, and then the Netherlands, I think.
Again, she's going to start talking about petrified wood now, which is all well and good. Again, 8 years ago, I was going to the Space Centre here in England at Leicester with Martin Liedtke, and a whole bunch of other people. Sun and Moon Group members came along with us, if you remember that. Not that I was actually a part of that group, but nevertheless. Sun, Moon and Zodiac group. And we all toddled along and looked at the petrified wood behind a piece of perspex, along with a whole bunch of rockets that were held together with zip ties and dreams. Anyway, if you know that the place that they're claiming to send these tin cans held together with ratchet straps to is fake, that is to say there is no sky vacuum, you don't worry about all of the fake, backdrop, obvious cinematography work that they did, or the models, or not going back, or not having telemetry data. All irrelevant, really. It's why we occasionally we obviously do cover it because I'm covering it now. But typically, if we weren't responding to somebody who's, no offence to a feasting on nonsense, we wouldn't cover it at all. We have no call to cover NASA at all in any context, because literally everything they do is debunked by the second law. So we don't really have any reason to cover this. But it's nice to help her out and go, you can stop worrying about any of this stuff. It's all just folly, because the sky's not a vacuum.
They gave it to the Netherlands, was one of the many, which many of the, now, I mean, you'd think if you received as like if you're an ambassador and you received a moon rock from one of the Apollo 11 guys, you would think that your country would house this in like a glass case, like in the embassy or something. Many of them have lost them. You go around and ask them, where's the moon rock that you were given by Apollo 11? They're like, nah, we don't have it anymore. But then the Netherlands were like, well, we had it. But then when we tested it, we found out it wasn't a moon rock. It was like from somewhere, here on Earth. So it's like,
wow, she's really 2015, huh?
Yeah, well, like I say, this is first foray into the feast of nonsense, isn't it? But okay, yeah. Again, I can't fault her. I did the same thing. I went and looked at the one in Leicester for the same reasons. But sky's not a vacuum. It didn't travel through a vacuum to bring back rocks. So where did the rocks come from? Who cares? I could.
Right, and if she's sharp like they say she is, she'll understand when you break down it violates natural law and you can't have gas pressure without containment. She will pick up on that.
Thanks, Neil.
Like really difficult to believe. So what's going on with the universe and everything that we've been taught?
There it is, complete.
Yeah, it's interesting you started with NASA and space exploration. Excuse me, because I think that's where most people go initially. But think about it in the course of human history. For a long time, we didn't have space exploration. It's only been the last, under 100 years.
Yeah, shocking. It's because for a heavy period, there was no outer space sky vacuum. There was just the church mathematics used to better predict where the stars would be. Right, in more recent years, we've reified that into an actual religion where we believe we're standing on the reified church mathematics of heliocentrism. We're not. So to say, well, we didn't have any people investigating what the reified mathematics of Kepler and Huygens. Nobody thought the sky was a vacuum. Then everyone thought the sky was a vacuum, and then we started exploring it. But we didn't, because the sky's not a vacuum.
And people did have very strong beliefs about the cosmos, but I do think it's natural to ask those questions. And the telemetry tapes, the fact that they don't exist anymore, and in my book I quote NASA admitting this, that's a big deal. And there are just so many anomalies there. But
yeah, we often call it anomaly hunting. Who cares? The sky is not a vacuum. We could babble on about how they're hiding the telemetry data because it proves a flat Earth. I don't really need NASA for things like that. They declare to all of their aviators that Earth is considered to be flat and stationary. Non-rotating, stationary plane, I think, to quote them verbatim. Well, yeah, they deal with it flat, we deal with it flat, it's measured flat, and the sky's not a vacuum. If you had telemetry data, it would be proving Earth's flat. Like, pitch data from aeroplanes proves Earth's flat. But that's because it is flat. But there definitely isn't a sky vacuum.
But what I try to do in the book, actually, I don't talk about that until chapter 6, because I think attacking some of the basic physics is really important, because people, I found, get locked into a model because...
Well, what physics? That's the study of the physical and natural world. That's what physics is. AKA the scientific method. Yeah? Physics, that's science. Science, well, that's the scientific method. If you're studying the natural world, that's what you'll use. NASA don't have any of that. There is no physics from NASA. None. What are you talking about? Start looking at the physics.
I don't think he's saying that. I think what he's saying is that he doesn't start with all that. He says he starts looking at the more basic physics. Well, that means he might be looking at gas pressure without a container.
That's not physics either.
Well, according to him, it might be. I know. Do you understand?
Bloody apologists. Why are you reading between the lines? It really bugs me when you do it.
Because you're deciding what he's going to say without saying it.
Well, I can take the words he does say as being the words he said, though, can't I?
Yeah, those words, but you haven't heard the full context of them yet if he hasn't referred to anything yet. If he refers next to a heap of nonsense from NASA, then fair enough.
NASA.
But he has to do that.
He has. He's done enough. Right. He's done enough because he said NASA and physics, didn't he? That's enough for me to go category error.
Well, NASA know their physics, in fairness now.
No, they don't. They don't have any physics. Physics?
No, not for a heliocentric sky vacuum, but they do know physics.
They don't know physics. What physics are NASA studying? Name one NASA experiment. One.
I can't do that.
It's because they don't have any. They're not doing physics.
How do you know they have never done an experiment?
I absolutely know without question that they're not studying the physical and natural world when they're putting on a pantomime about an area that doesn't exist, akin to Narnia, called a sky vacuum.
Yeah, that's their story. When I say they understand physics, they understand things like aerodynamics, and they understand...
That's not physics.
For the general public...
You keep telling me what's physics for them, and yeah, still the same exact objection. Category error, then.
Okay, forget about it. Right.
Oh, I'm not going to forget about it. You've criticised me for saying, no, I should read between the lines and accept that when he says physics, he's talking about stuff that isn't physics, that he thinks is physics, therefore it's okay.
I've criticised you for criticising him too early. You haven't heard what he's got to say.
Fine.
Of physics that they don't even know that they're relying on. And I just want to...
They're all clear. We're talking about NASA and the study of the physical and natural world that they are relying upon. Definitely a category error.
Describe a little chain of events that to me is a house of...
Sorry, descriptions of chains of events aren't physics. You don't know what physics are, Beardy.
Cards that should make everyone question the cosmos. And it starts with Newton's gravity.
Definitely not physics. Debunked 109 years ago. Coming up for 110 years old. Out of date. Pseudoscience.
very basic stuff, where if
The laws of Newton were not right.
you drop an apple, it falls to the ground.
And if you look at a cloud, it's risen up from all the gas that turned into water vapor.
And the belief is that it falls to the ground.
What, the cloud? It's interesting how this makes no sense when I put a little juxtaposition of something going up inside the example. Because obviously, if you just talk about the apple, it's almost like everything goes down, isn't it?
It's like I'm picking on the guy now. He didn't state this is NASA. He talked to people in general, starting their whole paradigm off out in the heliocentric sky vacuum. He's bringing it back to the basics. You don't know what he's going to say. You're just in bad humor and you're looking for someone to pick on. And this individual is getting the brunt of it.
I am in bad humor, but I'm definitely not picking on someone. I'm just going on what he says. I was going to say the reason it bugs me when you do this is because you introduced me to the deception detective. I was a big fan of the behavior panel, and he's not a bit. He's completely contrasting them in what he does. And when his biggest rhetoric, his main point is take people based on what they actually say, not the intonation of how they say it, not the tone, not the timbre, just the words that they actually say. Words have meaning. Use your words carefully.
Can you pull a J? Because I think Nathan's right. I think the guy hung himself, Brian.
No, he's saying we need to hear more for more context. So I'm not going to pull a J. I'm just going to continue.
Because the Earth has a big mass, and mass.
Oh, really? Can you define mass for us? Maybe he's making the example on their behalf, so we'll let it continue.
Mass attracts mass, and the mass of the.
No, that's out of date by 109 years. I already covered this. I preemptively covered this. I'm pretty sure I knew exactly where he's going, and he's gone exactly there.
The apple's less than the mass of the Earth, so it falls.
Well, really? So gas is definitely a much, much lower gas in this nonsensical, non-defined word of what mass is. It's the apple and it being attracted to the Earth. Okay? Gas, in that paradigm, also has mass. Is mass going down, go boom boom? Yeah, tiny little mass. Definitely in this paradigm going to be attracted to the giant mass of Earth. So gas go down, go boom boom, go splash splash. No, I'm looking up at clouds right now. If I release a helium balloon, it goes up. Yeah, mass is not attracting mass. This is 109 years out of date.
Falls down. The question isn't whether the apple falls. We know it does. The question is mass attracting mass?
No, I can debunk that with gas behavior. Look up at a cloud and ask yourself, is mass attracting mass? Well, the Earth's got mass. Is it attracting the cloud? What about the vapor that went away from it to make the cloud? Was that going down? Definitely not. That's why it's 109 years out of date. Anybody? Feel free.
He's kind of hanging himself.
Model from Newton was that mass attracts mass. The problem is that it doesn't always work.
Yeah, look up at cloud.
So Newton's gravity cannot predict, for example, Mercury's orbit around the sun.
Well, he gives a toss about Mercury's orbit. Well, how have we gone from apple falls down because things go down, mass attracts mass, to it fails because of an orbital motion derived from Huygens and Kepler? Excuse me? No, mass attracting mass just is nonsense because it doesn't happen. So who cares about mass attracting mass predicting orbits of a planet? No. Mass doesn't attract mass. Furthermore, I'm working within the paradigm that you've actually defined what mass is. What is it? Is it mole? Is it inertia? Are we going to have an equivocation? Have it both? Define these words. This is 109 years out of date and nonsense. As for Kepler's retrograde motion and Huygens' derived scale, the out-of-date notions of Newton have nothing to do with it. It's completely non sequitur in this regard. It's out of date. It's wrong. Doesn't happen. Not because of orbits, but because mass doesn't attract mass. Debunked by gas behavior. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, well, what he's after doing now is, now that we've heard the full of it, is he's after stating originally to not start off with this off out in this outer space sky vacuum, right, within what he was calling a model. You must go back to basic physics. Then, in fairness, he didn't talk about physics. He talked about things that are pseudoscience and things that even the person who it's claimed developed these ideas never found a hypothesis, which is Newton. But then he went straight from the atom falling to heliocentric outer space. So he just did the very thing he was telling people not to do.
So that's a pretty big deal, that it's got some big holes, that it's not a comprehensive model. So what happened next? Einstein had a revised version of gravity, where...
Not revised. It's a completely different geometry. He didn't revise it, he superseded it. Why is this revision crap coming from? Okay, if he revised it, you can calculate pseudo-Riemannian geometry through Euclidean 3 space, or vice versa. No, absolutely not. The two do not work or function. One is not an updated version of the other. One is Euclidean, the other is pseudo-Riemannian. So definitely not an update. Yeah? They're completely different operating software. It's like saying, I've had an update. Well, what have you had? Snow Leopard? All right, what's your PC? It doesn't make any sense because the two are incompatible.
Mass is bending space-time.
Really? What, like the uneven distribution of mass causes the bending and warping of a fourth-dimensional pseudo-Riemannian space-time? As made up by Einstein? Do you want to show me space-time? Yeah, like not showing mass attracting mass, you won't be showing me an invented conceptual fourth-dimension bending as a result of the uneven distribution of mass. Not your mass. You seem to have summarized it without an accurate understanding of what your bullshit actually is. Or you'd have described the causal influencer as the uneven distribution thereof. You just said mass. Undefined as yet. No, we don't have a pseudo-Riemannian fourth dimension to bend, my friend. Maybe you could show me.
It's not really mass attracting mass. Is that literally...
Not really. No, it just isn't. You haven't defined mass, and its uneven distribution won't be causing a concept to bend.
Really, when you have mass in the universe, it's bending the fabric of reality.
Is it? Because we've invented the fabric of reality in a fourth dimension? No, that's just Einstein making up an extra dimension that doesn't exist, called space-time. A fourth dimension. We don't live in a fourth dimension. Length, breadth, and depth is all we have in our three-dimensional reality that is Euclidean. It also doesn't have Newtonian concepts of mass attracting mass within that Euclidean 3 space. So no, definitely not. This is ascribed through mathematics and conceptual fourth-dimensional time bending. Not reality, not physics. He started this off in the category of describing NASA's physics. Now this is complete garbage. This is pseudoscience, because they claim it is science when it definitely hasn't been through the scientific method. And it's actually just reified maths. Not refried, not like beans. Reified.
And that brings things closer and farther away from things.
Well, that made no sense based on Einstein's description or anything further to that. Brings things closer and further together because mass causes warping of time. You don't know what you're babbling about. You're just making this stuff up based on a cursory search of what Einstein stated.
The problem is that starting in 1933, Fritz Zwicky, who was an astronomer, he was looking at the Coma cluster of galaxies.
Sorry, looking at lights in the sky versus inventing conceptual fourth-dimensional bent space-time mediums in mathematics. These two are completely disconnected. The one has nothing to do with the other. One is a guy looking through a telescope. The other guy is someone writing on a chalkboard. These two things have nothing to do with each other.
And he said that based on the assumptions of gravity and...
Sorry, what assumptions of gravity now? Shouldn't you be demonstrating this in physical reality if it's physics? The assumptions in science would be the assumption of a causal influencer yet to be validated. That's what science is. This definitely isn't that, though, is it?
Einstein's gravity.
Yeah, the one he invented, the fourth dimension that he invented that doesn't exist in reality.
Everything was way off. Basically, there was under 1%.
But nothing's way off. He's just said, the guy looking at the skies and everything's nothing's way off. At all. You're just looking at lights. You don't look at them and go, oh, look, that's way off. No. Invented mediums and maths on whiteboards and chalkboards aren't what the lights do. Yeah? Saying, well, there's a fourth dimensional conceptual space-time bending that's causing that light to do this. No, definitely not. Completely arbitrary, on a chalkboard. Mathematics has no causal influence on the lights in the sky. I'll just say that again. Mathematics has no influence on physics. Physics is the physical. Mathematics is conceptual, and you seem to be blurring the lines because Einstein's told you to, between the physical, that's what you observe in reality, versus the mathematical, like invented pseudo-Riemannian spacetimes. Bending.
Percent of the mass that should have been there in order
Math? Sorry, is it just me you're now talking about math when earlier we were talking about physics?
for his observations to make sense.
So observations are observations in physical reality. They're not science either. But bent pseudo-Riemannian spacetime is a conceptual medium in maths only.
So instead of saying we should just question gravity,
we're not questioning it. We know it's bunk. Both versions. One's conceptual, the other's undone by a cloud.
they said, no, we discovered dark matter.
Really? You discovered some dark matter in the mathematics that must exist because you're looking at lights and saying they're wrong? No, you're looking at lights and saying they're wrong because you've got some stuff on a chalkboard that has no causal influence on them.
They plugged in dark matter.
What, plugged it in by what? A socket with an on switch? Or did they plug it into the maths that we're now talking about? So we're now completely detached from physical reality and plugging in numbers that won't affect the lights in the sky in any way, shape, or form.
And said, well, it must be there.
What? The dark matter must be there on the chalkboard or in the sky. The one has no influence over the other. I thought I made that clear.
And so there's this whole study now of dark matter. The problem is, I want to read you a direct quote. It's so powerful.
So there's something that must be there on the chalkboard that we're going to dedicate cash to. And when we dedicate cash to it, we're going to look in the sky for it? You're saying it must be in existence because of the mathematics that have no causal influence on the lights in the sky? Yeah, it's mathematical masturbation. That's what this is.
Powerful, at least for me, is that in 2023, a group of physicists...
excuse me? No, a group of pretender clowns looking at lights in the sky or writing on whiteboards and chalkboards.
Led by Pavel Krupa. He's a astrophysicist at the University of Bonn.
Astrophysicist? Oxymoron. If he's looking at the lights in the sky, he's not performing cause and effect reasoning based on the scientific method. That's an oxymoron.
He says they have falsified dark matter.
Falsified something that we have said that must be there in the maths on the chalkboard. He's falsified something that we have said must exist in our mathematics. Because we're physicists. So we're obviously dealing with the physical. You've been duped. You even said it yourself. Maths. Good.
How can something be falsified if it was never proven to exist in the first place?
It must exist, therefore I can falsify it, according to this numpty narrative.
And by the way, dark matter is supposed to make up about 25% of the universe.
Supposed to. Again, you're coming up with numbers on a chalkboard and telling the world and the sky what it must do. You see how stupid this is?
And if you combine dark matter and dark energy together, make up 96%.
So combine two things that we've said must exist. Combine them where? In physical reality. Okay, we're going to be combining dark energy and dark matter. I'll have 2 bags of both. Go. Let's combine them. I want to see the both of them first, and then I want to see you combine them. Can I have a bag of dark energy, please? And a dark matter bag also, please. What do you think will happen when we combine these? We're definitely going to get bags of them, aren't we? I'm throwing this out. It's not rhetorical.
Yeah, you're going to need to be able to get them in a bag and confine them and be able to weigh them.
What are them?
Or you could combine them.
What are we putting in the bag? What's dark energy exactly?
Dark matter and dark energy. You're going to need to put them in a bag.
What are they to put in a bag? Are they things we can put in bags?
Well, no, not unless you write the equations for them on a lot of pieces of paper.
No. I'm not putting equations in bags. I'm not combining. If I say I've got flour and water, I'm going to combine them. I'm going to need a physical flour and a physical water. I'm not going to do it in the chalkboard and expect to get bread.
Well, I'm out of options then.
So do these things physically exist? Dark matter? Do we have a physical dark matter?
No.
What about dark energy?
No,
do we have
we
a physical dark energy to combine with it? The thing that doesn't exist?
No, we don't have that either. No.
Are we going to combine these things then? Are we doing it on a chalkboard whilst talking about physics? This guy's dangerously close to getting called charlatan. Who was saying I should take it easy on him?
6% of the universe? That means according to conventional...
6%?
Yeah, I see it all. Tell me y'all are talking about
A sentence
Candace.
fragment. Do you want to try that again?
I said not me.
Not you, Eli.
I was saying, are y'all talking about Candace?
No.
Why
Obsessed
would
much?
we be talking about Candace?
Because she
Has
be
she been
having
to-
a whole bunch of Astro BSers on her show.
Fair
But
enough.
my
Brian
bad.
did not say you're being hard on him. Brian said you're not giving a guy a chance.
Holy shit, we got 8 different topics going at once. Elijah, you just can't bounce on the show without knowing what video's being over.
My
Right.
bad.
What I said was that you didn't know the context of what he was going to say yet, and leave him say it before you jumping all over him. Once you know the context, then you can do it. That's what Brian said.
It's better to ask forgiveness than permission. Go ahead and take him to the woodshed first, and then we can correct anything afterwards.
Yeah, permission, forgiveness.
Physics, only 4% of the universe is understood. But I want to read you a quote from Pavel Kup.
Got 6%, 4%.
Krupa. Actually, this is a 2022 article. And he said, a simple test suggests that dark matter does not, in fact, exist.
So what's a test? If we're doing physics, which this is definitely alluded to be, category error, what would a test be? It'd be the actualization of a hypothesis, would it not? So we're going to need a hypothesis. And in a hypothesis, we have a naturally occurring phenomena that we want to know the cause of. And then we have a suppositional causal influence that we propose will cause the effect we're studying. Is it going to have all of those constituent parts of science? Definitely not.
If it did, we would expect lighter galaxies orbiting heavier ones to be slowed down by dark matter particles, but we detect no such slowdown. The implications of this are nothing short of a revision.
We didn't detect anything. We're not doing science. We're not trying to vary and manipulate that which we assume will cause an effect. This is pure pseudoscience based on looking at lights. Yeah, when I said astrophysicist, oxymoron, this isn't physics. Yeah. Duping, that's what it is.
Of Einstein's theory of gravitation. Why the scientific...
It's not a theory, but we're going to get a J because he's linking these words together. Makes him a fraud.
Down by dark matter particles, but we detect no such slowdown. The implications of this are nothing short of a revision of Einstein's theory of gravitation. Why the scientific community is in denial about the...
It's not a theory, and science is not based on community guidelines. Science is based on the establishment of cause for a naturally occurring phenomena. That's what science is. But we've got establishments describing whether or not we're going to validate the 6% dark matter that we must have in the 4%. It's just what? This is just nonsense. Yeah? You've been duped. This is a priesthood that's giving you this information, not scientists. They're calling themselves scientists. They're frauds because they're not performing and observing the scientific method. So what's the textbook definition of pseudoscience? A claim of science that has not been through the scientific method. That's what these guys are doing, and you're parroting them. So you're just as culpable, as far as I'm concerned, my friend.
The falsification of the dark matter model is...
Again, using the terminology of science. Makes it sound very sciencey when he says falsification, doesn't he? Just hijacking these terms to peddle pseudoscience.
Is a question that requires both a sociological and a philosophical explanation.
Philosophical explanation? No. If we're seeing phenomena, we want to know the cause of it, and we want to establish it empirically. That's what the scientific method offers. I'm not going to sit around in an open-toe sandal, smoking pipes and talking about it.
Right. So they just make these assertions. I mean, but this is how.
Well boiled down. Oh, I like you. So they just make these assertions. Well summarized. Couldn't have done a better job myself.
How it's all. This is why it's so. Why I don't understand why questioning the universe is so controversial. Why questioning NASA? Why questioning any of this is so controversial when throughout. I mean, just look at history. We know that they would debunk.
Yeah, generally questioning the people in charge has never really resulted in any harm for anybody. Or we could burn you as a witch. I mean, I don't know, figure this out later.
Themselves, right? They would say, oh, or at least they claimed. They would say the Earth, the Earth is stationary and everything revolves around the Earth. And then they say, oh, no, never mind. Everything's revolving around the sun. And then, at one.
Who are they? Talking about.
Oh, this is Kim Iversen.
Yeah,
oh man, I love it.
Welcome to reality.
Talking about Kepler and Huygens. She's talking about orbital motion. She's going back a little bit, throwing in a bit of Ptolemy.
One point, Pluto's a planet. Oh, never mind. Pluto's not a planet. It's like they keep.
She's absolutely all over the place now. So she's gone from Ptolemy to Huygens to Kepler, and then now to present day, where some of these lights in the sky and their categorization of size based on Huygens scale is not worthy of the arbitrary scaling system within the values that were derived from flat plane angle measurements of these lights. So therefore, Pluto can't be called a planet. I mean, this is nonsense.
According to Jaron, it's not Ptolemy, it's Ptolemy.
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 He's silent.
Coming up with.
Not
Hey,
according
Chocolate.
to Jaron.
They assert something, and then later on they say, okay, it no longer is that assertion, but anybody.
Yeah, there you are. You're back on track now. So yeah, they double speak. Yes. Okay, I see why you've done that now. You've thrown in the Pluto thing to say one day it's one thing, and then they arbitrarily decide it's another.
Who questioned the assertion while it was an assertion is suddenly a lunatic or just anti-science. And it's like, well, eventually you're going to come around and say that none of this is, that what you just believed was not real. The dark matter issue is a significant issue because they've never been able to, they just claim that there's this matter that exists, but they don't know anything about it.
Right. And it's needed to prop up the entire cosmology.
Yeah, that's an accurate statement. So it's needed to prop up a cosmology, but a cosmology is supposed to be a description of what we're actually experiencing, as opposed to a riddled with nonsense and errors paradigm that doesn't quite work based on extrapolations from flat plane measurements. That's what a hoshbotch heliocentrism is when you reify it.
So think about how significant that is if it's been falsified. Whoa.
Right, and that's
you don't falsify models and paradigms and mathematics. This isn't something that falls in the scientific method for falsification. Now, you got the wrong end of the stick when you think about what's being falsified. It's either a good description in mathematics or it isn't, because that's what maths does. It's just a language. But we're not talking about science and physics, and if we were, we'd be establishing cause for phenomena we observe.
the problem. They don't want it falsified.
There's no phenomena in dark matter. That's the point. That's why I joked about getting a bag of it. It's a nothing. It's a giant nothing burger. So saying you're falsifying it means nothing. Again, it's
nothing can't exist.
Don't start.
Because it would.
Dark matter right here.
Go on, Chocolate.
So what you mean? I got a bag of dark matter right here.
But where were you earlier? Have you got any dark energy? I need 2 bags of both.
I can see if I can get that hot for you.
You got your connections, black market, right?
Yes, sir.
The dark market.
That wasn't a race thing.
Disrupt all of the others, and then they have to start from square one again, and they don't want to have to do that.
I think so, because all of a sudden everything's on the table. If you
Was this argument by cliche?
have to rethink the basics of gravity and motion,
Yeah, copyright Nathan Oakley, 1980.
we have to rethink the Big Bang. We have to rethink, like you said, what's known as geocentrism versus heliocentrism.
No, we don't. Right, both geocentric and heliocentric worlds require flat plane measurements to give extremities, that's equatorial minimums, their elevation angles, their flat Earth measurements of the stars. This is flawed in all regards, whether or not it's geocentric or heliocentric. It's flat. We observe the stars parallel to the surface, and we can describe them as being wrapped around us with a perspective view. It doesn't mean that we can then project a world that's spherical to be standing on it, or more accurately, in it, if you're describing heliocentric motion. You ever see a heliocentric description, like a visualization of that paradigm? all of the measurements, if you're going to refer them as that in the visualization, will come from the center of hell. You can't describe any of these movements, that's orbital motions, from the surface of the sphere. It has to be described from the center point on an asymptotically flat plane. So even the universe, when described by the church originally, was flat.
What's center point?
Geocentrism.
Center point of the globe that's projected out in heliocentric motion.
Well, they don't have a center point in reality, though.
No.
They'd have to know the radius.
Yeah,
And then they have
exactly.
to go there.
Precisely, they'd have to know the radius to get the center point. Well, what's the radius based on?
So it's a big old reverse stuffed nothing burger.
Yep, absolutely.
Earth is at the center. Heliocentrism is the current model that we revolve around the sun at the center. We have to.
Not a model. It's maths that's been turned into a paradigm that you have reified into existence.
Rethink potentially the mechanics of Earth, the shape of Earth, all this.
Mechanics, that makes it sound like it's got some physicality to it. No. These mathematics are extrapolations from flat plane measurements, right? That's the first thing. That's all that really matters. But in order to better predict where the stars might appear in the sky at given times on our calendar, you have certain characters that are charged with making better predictions. So epicycles turn into retrograde motion in a paradigm that's described from the center of hell on an asymptotically flat plane in an elliptical motion scaled by Huygens. And that's a world that you believe you live in, but it started off life as just a mathematics for better predicting where the lights would be.
This stuff to me becomes fair game if the basics are wrong of cosmology.
There's nothing wrong with the basics. The basics are angle measurements off a flat plane.
Wix. Give.
So you're really exploring so that's like way bigger than just, oh, the moon landing is questionable, or whatever. And I always say, look, like I've always been interested in talking to people who believe the flat Earth theory, for example.
That's another category error. It's not a theory. Earth's
People
just
say,
measured
"Oh,
flat.
how could you ever entertain that idea?" I've never been out in my own spaceship and seen.
Yeah, you see, glad we covered this first. Can't go out to space. There's no sky vacuum. The gas we're breathing would fill that space.
The Earth, I have to believe everything I believe when it comes to whether or not the Earth is round or.
She's literally getting choked up over this. This is great.
Or what's out in space or any of this stuff. I just have to take it really on faith. I was just saying, well, it's a faith belief.
Absolutely correct. You do. You have to take it on faith that there's an area above your head, vast in nature, scaled by Huygens.
That's
I have
it.
to
Blind
believe.
faith.
Say again?
Not just faith, blind faith.
Yep, completely blind faith. Yeah, that's absolutely right.
Believe that the person isn't lying to me because
It doesn't matter. Lies aren't really the problem here. It's validation that you don't have. So you've already covered it. Blind faith is what you've got. It appeals to their motivation, lies or otherwise. Is it right or isn't it? Can you have a sky vacuum? No.
I cannot verify for myself, and
You can. We can give you the tools. You just need the description of how gas behaves. Second law of thermodynamics is the tool you need to know beyond all doubt that all claims you have been given about that area you call space, when you said, I'll go out to space, well, that's a heliocentric sky vacuum, only necessitated by this mathematics for better predicting where stars will be. Well, that doesn't mean you've got a sky vacuum above your head, my love. It definitely is, and it violates the second law of thermodynamics. Go ahead, Kiwi.
Yeah, so all she needs to know is the second law of thermodynamics and pitch data.
Yep.
That's really all there is.
I'm pretty sure that would do it for her.
Yep.
A person like her, she'd be like, wow.
Well, contact her.
Kiwi's
That's
right on cue,
that's
right?
probably harder than getting to Candace Owens.
Really?
Please let Kim know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. That's all one word, @ and Nathan Oakley 1980, all sandwiched together as one word, sent me with a polite, non-sweary, non-abusive comment that basically points out that we have covered their video and responded to them. The idea being that if they were to respond to us and put a link, they would do the same. They'd put a link to my video. So please let them, moreover, Kim, know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. And yeah, give her a few more views, increase her algorithmic exposure by increasing the comments on her video. Hopefully she'd do the same for me. But yeah, let her know. Absolutely, Kiwi.
So I don't believe anything unless I can verify it for myself, which is most stuff. So most stuff I have to take on faith. That's just the reality of life.
No, I don't think I agree. Do I agree? No, I don't agree. I don't have to take most things on faith. In fact, I'm normally pretty apprehensive when I have to do that. Go ahead, whoever that is.
She said for her to believe something, she has to validate it. Then it's not a belief anymore.
Right.
It's knowledge.
But we're so indoctrinated into accepting a belief. You know, we're asked as flat earthers, why do you believe the earth is flat? Oh, you want to know why I believe the earth's a globe? People are accepting of this notion that belief is fine. No, definitely not. If you don't have a belief, it's because you know something. Or if you don't know, you just don't know. Then you can choose to believe in it. People are entitled to their beliefs, and people are entitled to believe they're on a globe, and that's all the globe is, a belief. Flat Earth, however, is not a theory. It's based on the measurements of Earth. We know it's flat. Go on.
Who said that people are entitled to their beliefs? Who said that?
Me.
Oh, all right.
I'm telling you, you're entitled to your belief. If you believe your dog's going to last another 10 years, then you're entitled to that belief.
I don't have a dog.
If you want to believe that dog you don't have will last another 10 years, you are entitled.
So you're just a philosopher, right? People aren't entitled to their beliefs. That's just your philosophy.
No, it's my way of saying I don't care. If you want to believe that you're on a globe, don't tell me about it because I don't care. That's another way.
Yeah, but you said people are entitled to their beliefs. That's a philosophical statement from you.
With the exception of Quantum Eraser, people are entitled to their beliefs.
God, that's fine.
Speaking of which, there's going to be a show on Quantum Eraser's channel, so a continuation, if you want to call it. There was technical issues on Saturday for Ballbusters. But tonight, 1 p.m. US Central, 7 p.m. UK, 5 a.m. Sydney, Australian time, Quantum Eraser Live. So it's the belief of the true earthers. Part 2. Be Here or Be Sphere on the Quantum Eraser YouTube channel. Only on YouTube. Any comment about your show later?
Oh, hopefully there'll be a show later.
I kind of covered that bit. Well, jolly good. Be Here or Be Sphere on the Quantum Eraser channel. Starting at 7 p.m. Oops. Now I've lost my place.
Where should we begin, Mark?
So where did we get
Debunk
to?
themselves, right? They'd say, oh, or at least they claimed. They would say the Earth, the sun, the Earth is stationary and everything revolves around the Earth. And then they say, oh, no, never mind. And it's like, well, eventually you're going to come around and say that none of this is, that what you just believed was not real. The dark matter issue.
Needed cut table. Earth is at the center. Heliocentrism is the current model that we revolve around the sun at the center.
Around or what's out in space time to become a biologist. I'm not going to take the time, I'm not going to throughout my life be able to do all of these things. So a lot of it is just taken on faith rather and belief,
right.
Not on fact.
We are told to believe certain agencies, especially as it pertains to the things that are really high up and out there. We have to rely on a very small number of people. But even if we, and let me just add, if your audience is interested, you can find that so many of the images are CGI or composite that you see they're not actually.
You see, I've now got to appeal to this guy. Yeah, I mean, your heart's in the right place, and I can tell. But who cares? When you know the sky can't be a vacuum, you stop concerning yourself with, well, how did they take the pictures of the snow in Narnia? You realise Narnia is not real. No, it's definitely real. It's just they use CGI to create the lion. But Narnia is definitely real. No. Let's break this down for you. The sky is not a vacuum, so who cares how they fake it? They're not faking The picture's in the sky vacuum. It's not like the cameras could work, but shouldn't have worked in the vacuum. There isn't a vacuum above your head, right? There is no 10 to the minus 17 heliocentric sky vacuum to be taking pictures from. So when you say, oh, they're all CGI, yeah, but you wouldn't care if you knew that the whole place was fake. Space, that is.
Actually just an innocent image of what's actually there. And even in spite of that, we don't have many images that you'd expect. Let's say with regard to Earth's rotation and shape, it would be really nice to have continuous footage from space, seeing the full Earth, doing a full rotation as a sphere.
You can't do that because it doesn't exist in physical reality. The notion of Earth being a sphere is derived from flat Earth elevation angle measurements of the stars, and then projections created of surfaces that are indicative of the celestial sphere position above a flat plane. When globe-shaped, at its centre you have an equatorial plane, but that won't function on the vast flat plane we actually dwell atop. So you have to have an extended equatorial plane, with a globe surplus to requirements plonked in the middle. Now, your ideas of being on a globe are completely negated by the actual measurements of the surface. But your concerns seem to be wandering off into the la-la land of what could or could not work when you're already in the globe paradigm. There is no globe paradigm to be on or in. Earth is measured flat.
With no interruptions. And you'd want to see buildings standing upright on the top, because that's what we're told happens, and then upside down on the bottom, and then hanging sideways on the side all together. Instead, it's very often we have these snapshots, or even the pictures from the moon, which a lot of people question. We get a disk. We don't get a full sphere. We get a circle on a screen. So there's so many things we don't even have. Another one is, it would be great to have a picture of Earth in the...
Are all of these going to be overcome by the second law of thermodynamics? I'm pretty sure he's just going to keep rattling off 2015 lists of things that flat earthers used to want. Well, outside of our arena, they might still want them, but here, until we figured out, thanks to Quantum Eraser, that there's no sky vacuum. Everything is automatically drawn to a void conclusion. There's no reason to question. I wonder why they don't have any pictures that look like this from an area that isn't real. So it's like saying, I wonder why we don't have more Turkish delights from the witch in Narnia. I wonder how the gas lamp keeps burning when they arrive. There's a gas lamp, right? Have they got fully plumbed up gas systems to these lamps? Does someone come along each day with little hooves, climb up a ladder and fill it with kerosene? How's it burning? Who cares? Narnia's not real. Go on.
You can't blame him for having this opinion, though, right? Coming from that perspective, what he's saying is, yeah, it would be nice to have evidence for the things that I'm told. It's kind of simple. I don't knock him for it because, yeah, it would be nice, right?
Solar system with the sun and all the other planets in the correct order that we're told. Where's that? The actual visual images and video images, number one, they come from a small number of individuals, and number two, we don't have the ones that we'd even want.
So everything we see is CGI or like renderings.
Can you imagine if a newbie came here? Because they'd be like, if this was being presented on Dave Weiss, yeah, Flat Earth Dave covers this, he'd be cheering for this guy. Yeah, it's all CGI, yet we're hypercritical of him. Well, that's next level stuff if you're a flat earther. When we say we're on the cutting edge, this is why. None of this matters. Why? Well, once you know the sky's not a vacuum. Once you know Narnia's not real, you're not concerned how the snow happens, or how the Turkish lights are made, or how a lion can talk, or how they've got pictures, or how they traverse the what's the name of it? Van Allen radiation belt. None of it's relevant anymore. Gas would fill that space. That's it. It's all over. Go, Brian.
I said Van Halen radiation belt.
Much of it is, especially from NASA. So there was a big announcement. So in 1972, they say that was the last non-composite image from the moon. And there are others that have come out, but if you look into them, they're composites of various images put together. The blue marble, which was on the iPhone, and so it became very popular. There was a NASA artist who talked about this openly, that it was photoshopped and that it was his own rendition of what Earth would look like.
How do we not have imagery of this? I mean, we have all these.
Again, just refer to everything we've said so far, because there is no sky vacuum. They have to fake it. Why haven't we got a real interview with Aslan? Why hasn't somebody sat down, put a camera in the face of the White Witch, and established why she's so damn evil? Why haven't we got these things? Because Narnia's not real. That's why.
These guys, you got Elon Musk sending stuff out into space like a.
No, you haven't. He's not sending stuff to a sky vacuum. If he can send stuff to a sky vacuum, then all the gas could go there too, couldn't it?
A freaking car is out there in space. Zoom.
Nope, definitely not. Yeah, they're just laughing at you with that one. That's why she very tentatively offered up a slight expletive. A freaking car in a sky vacuum. Yeah, the gas would fill it. All of the gas that is allegedly on the blue marble below the car is high pressure gas not vacating into the area the car's in. So the car can float around in the sky vacuum, but the gas below that's just traversing around in a high velocity in all directions doesn't go into the black area the car's in. Straight up second law of thermodynamics violation. Yeah? Next time you look at that imagery claimed to have a Tesla Roadster with "Don't Panic" on a screen in space, it's also got a picture of Earth in the background. As ludicrous as it looks, as fake as it looks. I mean, Elon might tell you, it's real because it looks so fake, but ultimately you don't need to concern yourself with how fake it looks when you know that the claim to be blue marble in the shot has got high pressure gas not following gas law, not dispersing into an available volume. As soon as you know that gas fills space, you know that there must be something right here. There's something not right. The gas on the blue marble below the car would also fill that area the car's in line with entropic dispersion laws described in the second law of thermodynamics.
We could save time.
One more time?
We could save time. Just say irrelevant after the fact of the second law of thermodynamics and then move on next topic.
Yeah, irrelevant after the fact, second law of thermodynamics, yes.
Like, why can't it turn around and take some images? I mean, we know they're sending rovers to Mars. That's far enough away.
Irrelevant after the fact.
Way, isn't it? To be able to actually look back at Earth and
watch gas not expanding into the vacuum you're taking the picture from.
The image of, I mean, it would be just a 24-hour image to see it completely revolving around.
Yeah, it's very curious to me too, because we do get these snapshots where you see part of Earth from above, but we don't have the full context, and we always have to basically do mental gymnastics to infer what the rest would be. But there's also issues with the lenses themselves. There's something called a fisheye lens, which can add curvature that doesn't actually exist. So we have to know a lot of information about these images before we can.
Nah, not really. If you know how Earth's functioning with the horizon, you know you can't have a horizon on a ball, and the horizontal plane of reference is utilizable practically with the horizon. All parallels, all horizontals run parallel with the horizon. So you can't have a horizon on a ball. Talking about how the globe creates the impression of a ball with a fisheye lens is kind of irrelevant again, because you have practical applications for the horizon with a flat Earth.
And draw conclusions.
Right, and that's what I think, the very little research I've done on the flat Earth theory.
Category error. Measuring Earth flat has nothing to do with theory.
Is I know a lot of it hinges, or not hinges, but a lot, but some, again, I haven't done any research onto it, so I don't actually know what the whole premise hinges on, but...
Use your words.
Use your words, come on. No, let's not be harsh. She's just being honest, and she's stumbling over her words because she's admitting her own ignorance, which is hard to do. I mean, come on, do you think most ballers could have this much humility? I haven't looked into it, so I don't know. It's what she's just said.
One of the aspects, I should say, is the fisheye lens that I've heard about.
Nothing to do with flat Earth, but you can tell she's had a surface scrape because she's talking about fisheye lenses in the context of flat Earth. No. That's how they brainwash you into your religion. The whole dealio with flat Earth is that it's flat. How do we know? Well, that's how we practically apply all measurements from and to Earth. There you go. Done. That's the dealio. Now, what you find won't be that. Hopefully, if some of my audience has shared this video and let you know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me, you can listen to this and go, now I've got a couple of choices. Like any person that comes to this show fresh. Number one, appreciate and understand that Earth is measured flat. And go about your day. You don't have to carry on covering this subject. Just know it's flat. That's how it's measured. But if you want to continue in the subject, exploring it and going beyond a surface scrape, then you need to know every single aspect of this subject and the opposing subject, which is globe Earth. If you're going to debate it, if you're going to discuss it, then you need to know everything. But I would suggest, now you've had a look at it, if you come out the other side of this video unscathed, just go about your day knowing Earth's flat. Knowing that any practical application of a measurement ever with respect to Earth will be flat. And if you know that, you don't need to concern yourself with any of this crap anymore. You won't worry about why they haven't got pictures from a sky vacuum. You'll know that there's no sky vacuum. That heights above surface level altitudes will also prove Earth is flat. When you describe how up someone is to not have a picture from a sky vacuum. How high are they? Yeah, that'll be with respect to a surface level. Sea level. The flat plane that you're raising up above. That's how everything's measured and described always.
About is that's what's making things look like it curves rather than the reality. That's just a
how things look's irrelevant. How are they practically applied? The horizon has a practical application for establishing horizontal planes. Yeah, kind of shocking given its words actually meets its own definition. Yeah, so what they tell you about distortions of the horizon as a practical application is irrelevant. How it seems to look is irrelevant. How's it measured? Flat. That's how Earth's measured.
perception thing because of the lenses.
That's one piece that people look at. There's what I call in the book globe skepticism. I would call it distinct from flat Earth, because flat Earth proposes for sure Earth is one way. But globe skepticism says we are told Earth is a sphere, more specifically an oblate spheroid. So it's not perfectly spherical, basically a sphere with a
Again, he's majoring on the minors when he goes through the highlights of the details of what a globe Earth paradigm is. Number one, most of your audience already understands. Number two, if you're going to define what makes a sphere Earth in the heliocentric paradigm, it's nothing to do with being a oblate spheroid. You're just parroting off some crap you got from Tyson. It has a fixed radial value to work with areas of equal elevation at radius value 3959. That's the distinction that makes a heliocentric globe Earth in that paradigm. Not oblate. What's he babbling about? Surface regurgitation.
Yeah.
I kind of disagree with your prior statement that it doesn't matter how it doesn't matter how it looks. I think it does, right? Because it's observed flat and stationary. So we don't ever see anything circular or spherical, right? So why would we go there?
All I mean by that is it's not going there, it's stopping there. Just how it looks is irrelevant. How it looks to be practically applied with a measurement through a sextant, for example, is definitely you looking at it, but observing it to practically measure it, as opposed to just looking at it.
And looking at it, I know this is a beyond requirements, but NASA would have to redact over 50 years of their images because there's no oblate spheroids in all those images. Just for their audience, right? The 2015 audience.
I don't care about the images. The images have come from sky vacuums, and the maths gives you a radial value of 3959, set in stone, because it must reverse engineer into the angles that come off a flat plane when you're drawing out circles of equal elevation and practically applying it to not dying at sea.
I know, but for the Kant-Fogomirians, when he says oblate spheroid, just look at the photos or images of NASA. You follow that?
Yes, they're not oblate.
I agree with that.
They're just
it's not
circles.
a radius value of roughly 4,000 miles. It's very
What? 3959. Very specific.
specific. And many challenges to that model are looking at the radius value, for example. There are people.
Not a model. It's a paradigm created from extrapolated maths from flat Earth angles, reified in existence in current terminology, but previously put to practical use for better predicting where the stars would be. And the stars are measured parallel with the plane we dwell atop.
People who claim they can see things that should not be visible.
No, this is garbage. No, this is taking surface level and eye level and claiming that there's a point below surface level that is flat, called Earth curve, that should block your view in an orthographic representation that puts you without a perspective view, and an inference that there's a point below the surface level when you exclude perspective. So this claim that it's about to launch into has nothing to do with flat Earth and everything to do with mathematics that require a flat Earth to function to suggest that there's a physical limitation to your view called Earth curve. Now, working within that paradigm that we do definitely have a physical geometric sphere edge to block our view of boats and buildings bottom up, has been debunked in 2020 by the Black Swan argument. If the Earth is a sphere with a radius of 3959 miles, then every distance to horizon measurement can be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. Distance to horizon measurement in the Black Swan is beyond the geometric limitations at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. Therefore, the horizon is not Earth curve, and the Earth is not a sphere. Black Swan 2020.
Because these objects should be blocked by Earth's curvature.
Should they?
And yet they can see them. So
yes.
I just need to add in there. I'm listening to a lot of stuff here. I was away, so I couldn't add in. I would have been adding in a lot. Within their own mathematics, they claim that the horizon is not the leading geometric edge of a globe arc. They claim
refraction.
It's optical. Yeah, it doesn't matter what they claim. They're not claiming it's geometric. They're not claiming it's physical or curve. That's all that matters.
Not anymore. Not since 2020,
Well, they were
my friend.
always claiming that. It was just hidden from the public.
Yeah, it was always, strictly speaking, refracted.
Yeah, to different degrees, from moment to moment, hour to hour, day to day. The point being is that they've always claimed that it's not, the horizon is not the leading geometric edge of a sphere, but they've given when I say they've hid it, they gave the public the impression by teaching kids in school that boats are going over the horizon and that this and that and everything has been blocked by the horizon, when they knew all along that the horizon was not a physical geometric location. Now, the word horizon means it's impossible for it to be a globe edge anyway because it's horizontal. But the point is that their claims concerning a globe's geometric edge that's blocking things or things are going over, they've never claimed that what we view as the horizon, they've actually never claimed that that is the edge of their globe. But they gave the impression they did, and they taught it to kids in school that that was what was happening, and they taught it to adults that that was what was happening, when it was never happening, and they knew it all along, as proven by their own mathematics.
So that's something that should be replicated by a lot of people, including space agencies, because shouldn't you just take out a telescope and say, well, we know the math of Earth, this building should be blocked because it's way below the curve. Like if you were trying to see around a bend, for example, you wouldn't be able to see something because it's around the bend. So these are very easy experiments that people should be able to run.
Not experiments. They're taking an idea that there should be an obstruction, but isn't. I mean, that, as far as I'm concerned, in 2024, is just, I open my eyes and see something. There it is. Lighthouse, boat. What's that you say? You're a globe believer, and you don't like me just pointing out that I see a boat. What's the problem? Oh, it's not a boat. It's actually a reified sphere edge horizon that should be blocking the boat but isn't. Therefore, what we're seeing isn't really there and is therefore a holographic projection of the boat from behind the sphere edge that we're not seeing. Therefore, it's a mirage. Because we should have Earth curve and haven't, says a globe believer. what's my response to that nonsense string of garbage? I just see a boat. There it is. I see it. I don't have to give an explanation. None is required.
Run. And then there are just so many anomalies with the globe that we could go into if you want, but that's often the challenge. And people will say, well, I'm not sure exactly what Earth is, but I know it's not a spinning globe. And this actually even comes, actually what initially got me interested, a man named Stephen A. Young, he wrote a book this year called A Fool's Wisdom. He's a theoretical physics PhD, and he came to the same conclusion where people were throwing around flat Earth, and he was like, nah, that can't be true. And he says, look, I don't know what Earth is, but the globe model has been falsified, basically.
Sorry, can I just point out?
Yeah, go ahead. I was probably going to say the same thing.
Absolute horsemeal. No, I absolutely, me, Brian's Logic, right, on YouTube, absolutely does know that the Earth is flat and stationary and can prove it with measurement of several different types that measure the Earth in massive expanses. Have absolutely no doubt that the Earth is flat. It had to be measured that way, right? Measured to be a horizontal plane for the latitude and longitude grid to be created. And that is what was mathematically back engineered and turned into what you think is a globe. So someone saying it's not a globe, but it's not flat. It's like, no, the globe had to come from measurements, horizontal measurements across the Earth. That's where your globe came from. So some idiot theoretical physicist who I would have zero respect for says, oh, well, it's not a globe, but it's not flat either. No, you're a theoretical idiot. That's what that person is. Right? I know, I've got the measurements, I've got the pitch data, I've got all the processes. So bring your theoretical nonsense to me.
That's interesting. I think that's a better way of phrasing it, is that it's skepticism. You know, and that's what I say about the moon landing. I don't know if it happened or if it didn't happen, but I'm certainly not going to believe it just happened. I mean, I'm super skeptical. I don't know. I mean, it's possible it could have happened. Again, I don't know, but I also don't know if it did. And there's just enough evidence for me to question it and to think that there's just too. I would think that you would have guarded those tapes with your life. The greatest achievement of mankind, and you didn't guard those damn tapes. The greatest achievement of mankind, and yeah, I mean, and no other country's gone back. I mean, and the answer is, well, they didn't need to.
No, the answer is they never went to begin with. The whole thing's a great big lie. And anybody who says that they went through a sky vacuum, visited a sky vacuum, or journeyed to the moon via a sky vacuum, they're all liars. Automatically.
She's not lying, though.
Because we did it? Oh, okay. So that doesn't, they do everything. Everybody copies. Just because we did it, suddenly other nations don't say, oh, I don't need to do it now. I don't need to make a phone because they made the phone. So I don't need to make a phone. You know, I mean, it's just like the most ridiculous idea to think, well, it's because we did it, so nobody else did. You know, there's just so many questions around it. I think a good way to frame it is skepticism. And that's interesting that.
Yeah, wouldn't it be nice, as I felt 10 years ago, if you could just bypass this whole quote unquote skepticism stage? Why? It would just be so much easier if you just got to this. Oh, right. There could be a anomaly in the globe. It might not work as we've been told. Okay, well, what's the dealio then? What is the world then? Okay, let's lay it out for you. It's measured flat, functionally flat, and the globe came from those flat Earth measurements. There you go. Now you can get on with your day. You don't have to be skeptical about pictures. You don't have to be skeptical about the Van Allen radiation belts or the Van Halen radiation belts. You have to be skeptical about pictures that may or may not have come from the sky vacuum, journeys to the moon, whether or not they played golf. Now you don't have to be skeptical about any of it. You can just write it all off and get on with your day.
Okay,
it's
maybe.
a journey, though.
Now, some people want the journey and they want it to never end. That's why we're dealing with Ethereans. The fantasy of the skepticism is what they like. No, I don't like that. I don't want to be skeptical about stuff. I just want to know either way.
We do. Have we not seen, though, pictures of other? Isn't everything in space round that we know of, like Mars and Venus and Mercury?
Well, you're raising a very interesting point, because often we assume that if we see something out there a certain way, then we know what is going on where we live. And that
Why? You're telling me you look out at a vast expanse, you stood at the top of some mountain range, and you look out and suddenly question how you live because of you looking out at the vastness of the mountain range. Oh, yeah, I must get that plumbing fixed. I mean, what? These two things are not joined. We have useful practical applications for the stars. That is to say, where they're above at what time. But as for this notion you've been brainwashed that the expansive area that might have lands, soil, resources, you've got this crazy idea that there's all those things in the sky. Now, those things are not in the sky. Yeah, so you don't need to trouble yourself with this. Good.
But his point being is that people, he's only stating that people do that. He's not said that, he's not making that claim himself. He's saying, from what I just heard, is that he's saying that people have this thing where they look out and they see what they think are spherical things in the sky through telescopes, and then they presume that we're on a sphere because the things that we're looking in the sky look round as well. Kind of nonsense.
Okay, but round and spherical are two different things. We don't have a binocular view of the sky.
I know that. That's why I said round, because that's why I said round, because we don't have a binocular. Exactly your point that you've made for a long time. A telescope will not give you a binocular view. You don't have 3D vision. You only have 2D, so you're seeing round. But people then have it in their head that they add in all the stuff they're trained to add in, and that round thing they see in a telescope becomes a sphere, which is 3D, and then we're on a sphere, a 3D sphere, and suddenly they're into la la land. So as opposed to just go on.
Tell them, Nathan.
There's nothing more to tell. The inference comes. Go on. What were you fishing for?
What I sent you that one time when you said binocular vision, they are binocular telescopes.
Oh yeah, there is one, isn't there?
Well, I never knew that. I
found that out a couple of weeks ago when QE Cup got me on Skype, and it's like, you rhetoric about there not being binocular telescopes. Here's one. I was like, oh.
Well, most people don't have binocular telescopes, and QE didn't send that to me. Must have been a setup.
Oh well, actually, I was about to give disclaimers for things that you can rattle off as inferring sphericity. Things like the claim to be orbital motion of certain moons around certain so-called planets, the libration that you can observe in the moon, but these things have to be extrapolated out in order to infer sphericity.
Brian, I didn't send that to you because you weren't the one that screwed up.
I know, I'm only joking.
But that's an interesting thing with being able to see depth. A binocular telescope looking at something that's in their worldview at light years away, it's still not going to help you.
Right. Indeed. I mean, but we don't know the distance. So based on that, if you do have binocular vision, I don't know the distance. I know what Huygens has given us based on Kepler, but that doesn't mean that they're far away. So binocular vision might actually be quite useful to learn about the lights in the sky that beyond their time and position above a GP has no bearing on us. They're useful. We can track them, and then we can predict where they're going to be above, if you want to call it a prediction. Bit of a stretch.
No, we don't. No, we don't.
Okay.
It's not a prediction. You know that.
What's the word I want then?
Cyclic cycle.
You can track you can track the cycles. Yeah. And then use that information to know when things are going to happen in the future. That's not a prediction.
No, pattern recognition.
Pattern recognition, yeah. You know that it's going to be 1 minute past 12, 60 seconds after midday. That doesn't mean you predicted the future.
That's copyrighted.
Presupposes that Earth.
Yeah, Brian.
Just before you go, I'd like for this guy's theoretical physicist to give his evidence that the Earth is not flat. That was his claim.
Theoretical physicists don't have evidence. That's why they're theoretical physicists.
Oh, I know. That's why I want to hear what he has to say.
They're not dealing with physics. What are they physically manipulating? And theoretical, that's a hijacking of the terminology in actual science. So it's vile, isn't it?
It's an oxymoron. Theoretical physicists, like mathematical physicists, those are all oxymorons.
Where we live is like the things that we see in the sky. But what if Earth is distinct? So it doesn't tell us about Earth by looking at what's above. That's a it's jumping to a false conclusion, or a conclusion that isn't warranted necessarily.
Well, I don't know if it, again, I don't know if we could jump to a conclusion because, again, unless I've gone out there with my own eyes and seen it for myself, it's not really a conclusion as much as it is a presumption. But I would think that Earth is I would think that it's more likely it's round if everything else around it is round also.
Round and flat aren't mutually exclusive. You need to get they need to figure out what words mean.
Okay, so based on our logic, when you're walking through the forest,
yep,
you're a bush.
Yes.
I'm a tree.
But that is the same. That's the same logic.
It is.
I walk through the woods and everything around me's sort of bushy. Well, by my standard, I've got to be a bush then. I mean, what else could it be?
That's literally by the brain for the brainwashing. Like, look up in the sky. How do you know it's glow? Oh, I look in the sky, not the ground, the sky. It's nonsense.
You could argue that if you look in the sky, you can see flat discs, so that makes us on a flat disc as well.
By the same logic, but it'd be just as fallacious.
Also,
how do I know the sky is blue? Well, see, every day there's this shadow that my building, because the sun has. I'm looking at the word. When we're like, how does it measure? And they're like, well, see, Copernicus. It's like, what are y'all are so far. Like, what are you talking about? The ground. Stop looking at the sky. The ground. I asked you a question about the ground.
To what's known as the Copernican principle, which Copernicus basically pushed the heliocentric model that the sun's at the center rather than Earth. And for the last several hundred years, we've been in that model. But the Copernican principle basically posits that Earth does not occupy a special place in the cosmos, that we're just one of many others. And in the book, I challenge that from many perspectives, including the cosmic microwave background. There's a lot of science that says, wait, maybe Earth does occupy a special place.
Science that suggests it? No. None of this is science. Let's just go through what science is. Because you said it so much. Go ahead first.
Sorry, I was just going to say, but that special place must be avoided at all costs. Thanks, Hubble.
Yeah, thanks, Hubble. Okay, so if you're going to claim something science, it is an application of the scientific method. That's physics, right? It comes under the subcategory. The heading is physics, yeah? And what is physics? It's the study of the physical natural world. What does that study involve? It involves a process, a method, called the scientific method. So that's what science is. Science is physics. So if you're doing physics, if you're doing science, you're adhering to the scientific method. So what's the scientific method? Step 1, observe a natural phenomena. That is to say, something in nature that is happening that you go, I wonder why that happened. Step 2, formulate a supposition for that event, for that phenomena. Your suppositional statement can be described as the independent variable, and the phenomena you are studying can be described as the dependent variable. The independent variable is a suppositional statement yet to be validated, and the dependent variable is your phenomena you are studying. When you have those two things, you have all of the constituent parts of a scientific prediction. It can be formulated into an if and then statement. If independent variable, then dependent variable. It automatically has the assumption of a non-positive result, zero difference, otherwise known as null. The null hypothesis would be if causal influencer, that's independent variable, then we do not observe the phenomena occurring. That's zero difference result. Upon variation, so that's step 2, hypothesis. Step 3 is to actualize your hypothesis. Yeah? Otherwise known as an experiment. This is the word he's just used. An experiment is where you vary and manipulate that which you supposed would cause the effect. So you vary your independent variable and see if it causes the dependent variable to show variation. In other words, you vary A and see if it causes B. If it does, you've got empirical validation of cause. If it does not, you've got empirical validation that it isn't the cause. So you always get empirical validation at the end of the process. That's the beauty of this method. It is empirical. Now, what do we get with pseudoscience astrophysicists? Well, them looking at lights in the sky and then telling you that they've done science. Now, what is pseudoscience? It is a claim of science that has not been through the scientific method. Not elucidating the cause of a natural phenomena. No suppositional statements put into a hypothesis. That's a scientific prediction. No actualization and validation of cause. That's where your falsifiability comes in. So that's what we are doing if we are doing an experiment.
In which case, the notion that where we live is distinct from the lights that we see in the sky, that's more plausible to me. But also, I just think from a logical perspective, the analogy that's often given is that we don't necessarily know about the ceiling by studying, we don't know about the floor by studying the ceiling.
I mean, there is something that is very distinct about Earth that we don't have in the objects around us, and that's life, right? We have a very distinct ecosystem.
So she's saying in the objects around us. So in your paradigm, so you're stuck in this paradigm because you've been brainwashed with it. So you don't know what you don't know, and you don't know that what you do know is wrong. So in this case, when you describe that we have life, what on the plane that we dwell atop, on the Earth, the bit that can grow food and sustain life, unlike the sky that has the gases we all breathe, but nothing else to sustain the life. Well, biggest entropy generator there is, but beyond that, we're not going to get the soil and the sustenance from the sky. But in your paradigm, you're still suggesting that there might be mineable, visitable planets that are made of rock and floating around in a sky vacuum. You're saying, well, thus far, what, there isn't life on the lights in the sky? Well, why would there be? They're lights in the sky. The life's on the ground. That's what we experience and know, and there's no exception to that. Don't say birds.
That's her brain trying to work it out. You could see like she's going through the motions, right? You can kind of see it or hear it, I guess, right? Because she just established, we look up and everything is round like us, right? But now she's trying to say, but no, we're actually different, right? There is a difference between here and what we look up above our heads. She's trying to work it out, man. I think it's good.
Yeah.
System, a very distinct, life on Earth is very distinct and different. So I guess one could then come to the, possibility that Earth is different because there are some real distinct differences already that we can observe.
I mean, this goes without saying as far as I'm concerned. To say, well, life is on Earth, and therefore it's pretty distinctly different to the twinkling lights in the sky. Yeah, that goes without saying. But for the fact that you have a paradigm where you believe that they're rocks that potentially could have life, but we haven't discovered any yet, and therefore what we have is very different to those rocks that don't have life, you're making this comparison within a paradigm that makes no sense. Just break it back down to what you actually experience, and you're saying the ground we experience is very different to the sky we experience. Yeah, it is.
So
how profound?
Perhaps
at least
it is different.
At least as a possibility. But one thought that comes to mind, Kim, is if Earth were a sphere, shouldn't it be really easy to just dig all the way down and then end out on the other side of space on the bottom? And so the problem is we've only been able to dig down under 8 miles. That's the farthest any digging expedition has gone. And the rate.
I mean, this is like the calmest rendition of all 2015 arguments ever, isn't it?
Value is 4,000. If we went all.
Who's just getting into this topic? Like, I missed like the background of whatever we're listening to. Who are these guys, or this guy and the girl?
Mark Gober and Kim Leverson.
Iversen.
Iversen, sorry.
There's surface puke regurgitators that have questions. That's who they are.
Copy that.
All the way, it would be over like, roughly 8,000 miles. So there are all these problems consistently. When I was trying to disprove what I was hearing of all the skeptics, and every time I'm like, well, I actually can't prove the current model. Another one that would be.
He's watched David Weiss, hasn't he?
Sounds like it.
Got this from David Weiss.
Be really nice is if we could freely and privately explore all of Earth. And one of the common objections is, well,
what's coming next? Now we know exactly where this is going.
But since the 1959 Antarctic Treaty, which
oh, what a shock! The Antarctic Treaty. Okay, we expanded the territories flat. We tracked where the stars were and where their positions above the ground would be, so we could find our way home as we expanded out the known territories. So, Earth was measured flat and expanded out flat, mapped and charted flat, flown across flat, sailed across flat. So, what is this speculation about beyond the ice wall that we don't know we do or don't have? Nobody's proven one. We know we've got some ice shelves in a place we call Antarctica. So what? We do know how we've expanded the territory that we do have flat. So if I'm going to lean in this argument, I'm going to lean in on what we definitely do know, rather than the speculative garbage you're given by Ethereum nonsense spewers to lean on. So as a flat earther, would it be advisable to lean on the speculation of what could be beyond an area that's allegedly heavily controlled? I would say no. I'd say go to what you definitely know in terms of how Earth was expanded to date. Was it done globe-shaped? Definitely not. Wouldn't have elevation angles finding our way home if it was done globe-shaped. You can't get angles from curves. That's why all the maps are flat, because that's how it was mapped and charted with respect to the plane, sea level. That's how Earth was expanded. Who gives a toss about this surface puke regurgitated from Dave Weiss?
which interestingly was signed by the US and the Soviet Union, among others, but the US and the Soviet Union were supposed to be in a Cold War. They also signed a space treaty, so that's interesting. But in any event, it restricts free and private access of Antarctica below the 60th south latitude. And that doesn't mean, some people go to parts of Antarctica, but we need to explore the whole thing.
Sounds like double speak to me. Can't go to Ireland. You're not allowed. I mean, there's people living in Ireland and you're allowed to fly there. So, which is it? We can't go down there, or people regularly go down there. If you can't recognise doublespeak when you're actually saying it in the same sentence, then there's no hope for you, as far as I'm concerned.
To know exactly what it is, every part of it. And that's restricted. So we actually don't have...
Unless you go down there.
The ability right now, with our current knowledge, to...
So we don't have the ability to go down there, but we can go down there.
Know what Earth is.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what...
Down to the bottom of a ball on a presupposed heliocentric paradigm.
What I find so strange is...
Yeah, shut up, my paneler. Yes, no, not much you'll get past them. I'm not allowed it either.
Even when I just love, for fun, I go onto Google Maps or...
My mouth's hurting. You made me smile, and now my mouth's hurting. Thank you, Brian. But you are sharp.
Apple Maps, and I'll go to places in the world and do like street view walkthroughs or...
It's Cartesian, flat. It's got miles and kilometers laid out in scales. Yeah, flat. Grid.
Just to see what different places are like and all of
that.
Let me know if there's too much background noise. I'll go on mute.
No, you're fine, you're fine.
But the reason why it's important to pick on things like that, it's not to be an a-hole about it, right? The reason why it's important, there's an indoctrination after taking place through basically everyone's lives. So whatever amount of years you've been alive, you've been told about this place that's down there. So when you keep on using the term, not you personally, but as Kiwi would say, the royal you, stating we're going down there, you're keeping something alive in your mind that isn't real. And that's why people might think, oh, our panel are too pedantic, whatever. No, it's not about being pedantic. It's about unbrainwashing you. That's
because
what it's
people
about.
are under spells with
exactly.
words. And when you say a word, it triggers a person who's indoctrinated imagination. And when you say down under, the only thing a person can think about for a place they haven't been, Australia, is it's underneath us somewhere.
Yeah, you can't
Where's
be.
Brian?
Which is very important.
You
What's
can't.
Brian doing? He running a potato skin marathon or something?
Yes, he's Irish. That's correct.
So out of breath.
I'm walking.
You're walking and you're out of breath.
Anyway, so what Brian's trying to point out is that there's an assumption of antipodal. When I say down, right? Down is not a word you can use unless you're referencing a flat plane. But when they use it contextually to describe Antarctica, they're not describing down, they're describing travelling antipodal from an original position in the north. Well, we don't travel antipodal with respect to a ball. We travel across a flat plane. When described in the celestial sphere, you can describe two antipodal flat planes, one north, one south. But the axis itself requires a flat plane to describe. All of the angles have to reference a single flat plane to be able to navigate on the surface. There is no antipodal on the bottom of a ball. When I say down, Brian's calling me because I'm incorrect in that terminology, and he's saying you've got to get this out of your system because every time you drop it in without caveat, it just reaffirms the illusion that people are already buying into. All right, so when I go to Antarctica, I'm going to be dangling off the bottom of a ball when I get there. No, there is no down on a ball. You need a flat plane of reference to use that term. Models.
Well,
Go on, Brian.
Sorry, just so you know, when I hear you say it, it instantly puts me thinking of it as down. And that's why I know it's doing it to everyone else.
Yeah,
And even me, who's been at this for years, even I'm straight away as soon as I hear it, because down is a vector.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword. When we say all roads lead to a flat Earth, we have to understand that our own verbiage reifies their paradigm for them. So it stops them having to do it. As you go out towards the horizon and arrive in Antarctica, suddenly people go, whoa, whoa, whoa. Don't you just mean down to Antarctica? That would be a better way of phrasing it. It's just I'm not wired that way. We're all subject to the brainwashing, and I need to unbrainwash myself to stop saying this term because it helps our opponents on their way to reifying a paradigm that doesn't exist. Just with one word. So Brian's absolutely right to call me on it.
It's crazy because if you've never been a pilot, right, or have never flown in a cockpit, then you would have never imagined, like, say you imagine going to Antarctica in a plane right now. For me, I just imagine flying straight, looking at the horizon for that entire time until, boom, there's land and you land. But when other people think about it, there's already a ball in mind. It's like Street Fighter when you're selecting a character and then you just got these planes flying around this map, and they don't really think about reality when they think about these things at all. They have these maps or these concepts in their mind when they're asked these questions or when they have these conversations about these topics.
Unless you actually get into the plane with the intention of seeing the curvature, and you're looking for it and you don't see it, that kind of messes you up, and then you end up being me.
Right. Hold on one sec. My wife's actually talking to me. Sorry. Let's play a bit more video.
How dare
this. And one thing that I find so strange is when I zoom out and I get the globe, I can spin the globe around. But you know what I can't do? I can't spin it upside down. I can't see all of Antarctica. It doesn't let me.
Mm-hmm.
It does. There's like as if satellites are like, how is that possible?
What was the term you used, QE? All superseded by the second law or something like that. Notwithstanding the second law. I can't remember what you said.
It's irrelevant after the fact, the second law of thermodynamics.
Irrelevant after the fact. Yes, that's the one.
Elon Musk has got Starlink, right? Just like gridded around the earth like a blanket. And yet, why do we not have imagery straight on of Antarctica? Why can I not spin the globe like that?
In my mind,
It's very interesting.
That's a good question. I'll tell you what. My ex, we used to argue.
Shut up.
We're both rumpusing him. Sorry, Eli. Go ahead.
We used to talk about Google Maps all the time, and she would get on Google Earth all the time. She'd get on Google Earth, and she's like, "Yo, like, I can visit any country, any place, but when I go to Antarctica, there's nothing there. There's no real snow. There's no, like, why aren't the satellites getting real images of that if the pictures are coming from the second law of thermodynamics violation?" She didn't say that, but obviously she said coming
They'll
from
get
space.
around to it. They're going to drop one of the Google cars on there and drive around a bit. Then we'll have better image.
Now, one other thing on Antarctica that really piqued my interest in this. There's something called magnetic declination. Basically, the magnetic poles of Earth don't match with the geographic poles. So the magnetic poles move around. And
do they? Go.
It's believed that that's the case because the
sorry, you've just told us it does do something, and now you're immediately caveating it with what a belief is. I'm so glad I paused.
Magnetic field comes from Earth's core, which we've never been to. And it's
Right.
because of a geodynamo effect, which has never been replicated, of the outer core spinning a certain way. So basically, it's a guess about how Earth's magnetic field, such an important thing, even exists. The problem is that this has real world implications for navigation because we need compasses to get to the right geographic location.
Right.
We have to manually adjust compasses, especially.
Nobody's manually adjusting compasses. Again, we're taking these concepts that have been distorted by people and suggesting that we have to change how something physically operates. A compass will always do exactly the same. We're not making an adjustment to the compass, right? We're taking a construct that's been created by a guy and adjusting what we measure with the compass on our charts that are derived from globe projections.
Near Antarctica. It gets really, really bad, where there's a website anyone can go to, magnetic-declination.com. You could see what the adjustment needed would be. And in Antarctica, at one point, like I quoted in my book, it's negative 178 degrees. So they're basically saying, whatever your compass is telling you, you have to turn around, then you get to the right place. It goes haywire. What's interesting is that if you took a flat map and put it around a sphere, you would have to really
Again. If you took a flat map and put it on a sphere, what? Tangent maps. Shout out to him, sake, says 4 more hours. Sorry about that. Thank you for the super chat.
So the flat map, quote unquote, which again we can't know for
flat map claw hands.
Well,
sure.
Yeah, but meat hooks. What does flat map quote unquote mean? What's the difference? Gonna get a lot of that today, later on today, by the way.
That Earth is a circle, basically in a lake, surrounded by an ice wall, and that's Antarctica. So Antarctica is not a continent. That's the theory. Of course, we couldn't know this.
Again.
Yep, he's been listening to David Weiss, the non-flat Earth Dave.
Yeah. Could be a really big ball. End quote. David Weiss.
Sure, but if you took that as
this is what
basically
I've heard I've heard this one from flat Earth, from the flat Earth, theory, which is that there's this a giant.
I've met the flat Earth theory. Lovely fella. That tells me some crazy stuff.
An ice wall.
Definitely
But then how do you?
From the days of the world. Definitely coming from the days of the world, I was saying.
Shut up, Elijah. We're trying to play the video, for God's sake.
Okay, keep going.
But let me continue, then I'll pause. But what's interesting, if you just hold that as a possibility, if you were to take that quote unquote flat, circular Earth map and put it around a sphere, you have to really.
Did it again. Meat hook, quote unquote. What the hell? They listening to what's it?
I don't know. Sounds like more like Dave Weiss.
All right.
Really compress the outer parts, which is Antarctica, into this little ball at the bottom of the sphere. So it is interesting that the compasses go haywire, especially below the 60th south latitude, where we're not allowed to freely and privately explore. So there are these anomalies that are just interesting to me, like also at the equator, which is where the two maps.
He described taking the flat Earth angles, projecting with Haversine to create a globe, taking the globe you've projected and wrapping a cylinder around it, cutting it out flat and producing I don't know, Mercator projection, let's just say, and then putting that back on the globe. That's what he just described.
Yep.
Maps would.
It just doesn't know how globe projections are created. That's the problem here. He's got a David Weiss level of understanding. Frankly, I'll be honest. But given his ignorance, his presentation is tolerable. It's only intolerable when Dave Weiss does it because he's been here so long and I just tell him about flat Earth measurements and Black Swan and various other things, right? So by comparison, when this guy does it as a noob, you're like, fair enough, right? It's surface level regurgitation. But fair enough.
Yes.
I see chocolate. What you gonna say?
No, I was gonna kind of say that, like, we can't hold this guy to the same standard as David Weiss, because I mean, unless this guy's been around that long, but for somebody new delving into this, like you said, it's tolerable. It could be a lot worse.
Barely.
Would it not be better if when this guy did his surface research, he came across us and was now saying, well, let me just tell you what the flat Earth's all about. It's measured flat. Yeah, there's angles and charts and building stuff and sailing and flying, and they're all flat. And you can prove it with the documentation. It's really easy. If he started off like that because he'd found us rather than Dave, then we'd have a very different story on hands. We're only saying it's tolerable because he can't control that he's exposed to the shite Dave Weiss puts out there. Therefore, it's tolerable.
Yep.
Yeah.
Got it. You're all over it. Exactly.
And I wanted to, see, Brian, this is but this is good though. See, this is
use your word.
Iversen, I want to say
sentence fragment. Much start again. Take a breath.
I wanted to say that I was, shocked that Kim Iversen was covering this topic, but then again, I'm not, considering she's asked all the questions that we've asked since 2020, basically, and since before that, she's one of the first people to talk about what's going on geopolitically. I can't really say more. So she's always talked about, she's been adjacent to us the whole time, and what I'm saying is, damn Candace Owens, because she's talking to dudes about like the galaxy and quasars and forget that. We need to get on Kim Iversen's show.
Well, does Brian have a unnatural affinity to Kim yet?
Not yet, but I'll get him there.
We'll just focus on you, Eli. We'll motivate you instead.
You'll see a line. That's where you need the least amount of navigation adjustment on compasses for the magnetic field. So, like, these are things that we have to solve one way or the other, flat or not. Like, why are the poles moving around like this?
Say again.
Not the electromagnetic field.
All I heard is we need to solve it. Yeah, it's a big problem.
Now he said the magnetic field. This is going to dovetail with later show today. So it's not the electromagnetic field; it's the magnetic field.
Where does the where does the magnetic field sit on the light spectrum?
Nowhere.
So we don't understand it. And why do you have to manually adjust compasses to get to the right place?
What?
Sorry. Hands up who's seen a compass with a manual adjustment lever?
You can adjust.
That's such nonsense.
You can adjust it on the bevel ring for certain things, but not the way he's talking about.
Yeah, you know what I'm criticizing.
The compass when you wouldn't know where the compass is the only orientation you have.
Yep.
How can you adjust it? What's your reference?
Exactly. He's talking about declination. He's close to covering he's close to getting onto a subject that's useful, isn't he? But it's because it's surface regurgitation. There's no substance to this. So every time he gets close to covering something, you go, yeah, this could turn out to be really useful. You're like, 2015 spews out of him, and you're like, yeah, that was a waste of time.
Is that magnetic declination or electromagnetic declination?
It's light.
Just a thought.
It's light magnetic. Light magnetic. That's what I'm calling it.
You're going to be the one held on trial, by the way, for that.
By the way, in tomorrow's show, we're going to be telling you about what we actually think space is. It's called a grifter. It's the area that's in the sky that used to be a sky vacuum, and it's now going to be called the grifter.
Really?
Yeah.
This to me sounds like one of the most genuine conversations. It just feels very genuine, if you ask me.
Yep.
Well, we didn't ask you.
Hey, Eli. 1 second, chocolate.
Yeah.
Eli, when he said to you, when you said one of my exes, and Kiwi said, what was his name? You should have said, your sister.
That's not a name.
What?
There was a retort.
The wit is so good in here. Oh,
Okay,
Don't be
boys.
giving him any ideas, Brian.
Okay, simmer down, lads.
Just take it, like, what does a pilot say about that? I mean, do they just say, well, it is what it is?
Doesn't matter what a pilot says. Got pitch data. Earth's flat. Nose up with respect to horizontal. Anywhere you fly. Always.
I don't know.
I
That's
was
just
talking
what
to a pilot.
taught.
Yeah, I was talking to a former pilot the other day who said, "Yeah, this is what we were taught. You just use these charts. You adjust."
What, the flat charts?
Because that's how it goes.
They say, I don't know. This is what you do. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's just what I'm told. Thank you so much for watching. This was just a clip from the long.
Oh, jolly good. Well, we're going to show you a video, even though it was just a clip. Hopefully, you'll be informed. I'm an audience that at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. And if you are a member of my live audience currently, please toddle along to Kim's video and just let her know that we've responded. Hopefully, she'll take some useful information with this. And in all sincerity, I would hope that she does toddle along. She does listen to a little bit of it. And some of it is indicative of what I talk about on most of the live shows. You've got a couple of choices. Know Earth's flat and get on with your day. Or subscribe, like, share the video with everybody and spend as much time as possible listening to the show. In which case, smash the super chat and send me some PayPals. But yeah, go about your day knowing Earth's flat and you don't have to worry about any of this stuff that you've concerned yourself with in this 20-minute clip. Because none of it's relevant anymore. Anyone got any last comments on this?
Done with the video.
Yeah,
that was it. Yeah, that was it.
I have.
Of
Yeah.
course you have.
To say that the pilots don't know that's not true. They do know, but they know what they don't do, and they don't adjust for. So they do know. They just maybe don't want to accept it or address it. That's all.
You think that most of them don't even think about it?
I
right?
think most
They
of them
just
don't think
do
about it.
They just do their job and don't even, bring up the concept or the reference of a globe, right? Unless somebody brings it up to them. But wouldn't you? I don't know. I'm just speculating. Because pilots are pretty intelligent for the most part. You have to have your shit together. I just think I just put myself in their place, or put them in my place, where I never contextualized it, right? And not never. I finally did, but for years I didn't. Follow?
Not really.
All right.
But with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's pre and live show possible. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.